What is happening, guys? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. What is happening, guys? What's going on? Who's out there? What is happening? It is Friday. Thank God, right? Man, we made it. We made it to another week, guys, to the end of another week. That's right. And now we are here at the Vodka Stream Lounge. Pull up a chair. Let's relax. Let's have some fun tonight. Let's pour yourselves a drink and see who's out there. Cheers, guys. Of course, you know me, got my vodka going on. Why does it seem like I guess everything's fine. I don't know. It seems like everything's a little more bright right here. And I'm like, why? Interesting. But anyways, what's going on? Cheers. Cheers. What's going on? Yeah. All right. What's going on, Will? What's going on, Chand, man? What's going on, buddy? Yeah. All right. Follow the right rabbit there, Eric. What's going on, Bennett? How you doing? Preemptive. Oh, yes. And she hopefully is resting up. Like I said, she has not been feeling good. It's sounding like it's not sounding like it's that terrible little thing that's out there right now. It's sounding like it's just a normal little flu or something like that. So, but if need be, of course, she of course is going to get tested just in case, but she's doing better, guys. She's doing definitely better. What's going on, Jimmy? Happy Friday. Yo, what is up? What's going on, Raven, Liberty? That's right, man. Trying to get, you got some people that want to like promote a movie, talk some of their movie and stuff like that. Of course, man. That's why I was like looking forward to this. Yo, what's up, Jose? Glad to see you, buddy. Of course, Eric, what's up? Good. I'm glad you did. So did I. I enjoyed the shit out of it. As you guys saw my my little quick review. And we'll, of course, be talking more about that. What's going on, Jason? Jedi MILF, how you doing? Yo, what's going on, Ollie? How you doing? From Dubai. Well, cheers, brother. Thanks for clicking in, man. For sure. What's up, Steven? What's up? Yeah, we got from a white skin to a black skin. I love that. Absolutely love that. Yeah. Yep. What's going on? Pal? Carrie, buddy. What's up? What's going on? More Star Wars talk? Yeah. I mean, sadly, though, I haven't seen the latest episode of Mandalorian. Unlike last week. Last week, I did because, I was home for 5 days. Sadly, I haven't seen this week's episode of Mandalorian. So I'll be watching that first thing in the morning. And I heard it's a good one. So no spoilers, guys. Relax. No spoilers. Mr. Ben, you better be joining. You better be joining later, buddy. You better be joining later. Dude, you know what? I'm telling you. I mean, if I know how to reach it, if I could figure out how to reach out to Mr. Joe, I definitely would try. And I mean, apparently, that last little bit of information that he gave us when it came to, Deathstroke stuff, he was on like a show called Drinks with Johnny, which is similar to this, it's relaxed. It was like, hey, it was kind of like a loungy type setting and stuff like that. So I'm like, come on, man. If Joe Manganiello is going to go on and I'm not trying to sound big headed or anything, but that channel that he showed up on, smaller than mine, a little smaller, I'm not saying like I said, I'm not trying to, maybe that guy has a different kind of audience, but I'm just saying, I was like, dang, maybe he'll want to come on the Vodka stream one of these days. I don't know how would I do that? Could you tell us when you're gonna do that fan stream tomorrow? Yeah, it'll probably be around the same time as I do it right now. Maybe I'll do it at 9. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it at 9 instead. I don't know. Like I said, I'll figure it out tomorrow. Let's see where I'm at because, of course, Saturdays, even though my Saturday mornings are for laziness and lounging and eating some kind of junk food from a fast food restaurant, a breakfast junk food, because, like I said, that's what I do. I try to eat as healthy as possible during the week. And then I have my Saturday cheat day that starts off with a tasty breakfast sandwich and something that's a mocha iced coffee. So we'll see. But I always like to work. And of course, tomorrow I'll be working on stuff. I got like I think I got 3 videos that I've recorded that I have not posted yet. They weren't like crucial, nothing that like crucial that's like, time constraint that I need to get it out there. Obviously, the video that I posted earlier about AMC, that was more crucial than some of these videos. These videos aren't as crucial, but they're good videos, hopefully, and you guys can enjoy those. But so I'll let you know. I'll let you know probably midday tomorrow. It'll probably be, it'll be 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, or 9 o'clock, just depending on where I'm at during the day. One of these days I will. One of these days I'm going to get out of this damn state and I'm going to go there. What's going on, TJ? How you doing, buddy? Hey, we got Mr. Joey right here, just stopping by for a sec. Oh, you're at work? Poor guy, you're working on a Friday night? That sucks, man. That freaking sucks. Hey, Dave, long time view. Hey, well, thank you, Sco. Is that how you say it? Sco or Ska? Sco? Probably Sco. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. We got Superior. We got him going on here. All right. But yeah, tonight should be a lot of fun. But yeah, I keep hearing great things about the newest episode of Mandalorian. I'm looking forward to it because last week's episode was just like, come on, that was one of the best. One of the best. One of the best right there. Okay, and that. Jordan. And, a lot of things happened this week. Something pretty damn crucial that, of course, hopefully with the panel, we'll discuss it. But, the panel might be a little light tonight. That's why I was looking at Ben. I'm like, you're coming on tonight, right? Because it might be a little light tonight. I don't think we're going to have the blessings of Mr. McClellan tonight because I think he told me that his son has an early basketball game tomorrow, and he's 2 hours ahead. So he's probably already in bed right now, or he's about to be. No, he's probably reading a book right now in bed. Maybe he's listening to the show. Hi, Scott, if you're listening. But I don't think Scott's going to make it tonight. Sadly, we will miss him dearly, of course, because Scott's like he's the teacher of the group, and always in there with the clutch with everything. And then, of course, with that lovely voice that he has, that freaking radio voice that he has. Geez. But hopefully we can get some of the other boys in here. And I think even Mr. Swenson was like, I got company tonight. That's the thing. It's December. So naturally, there's going to be some family get-togethers. Fuck all the politicians that say don't get together. Obviously, we're still getting together, right? So, yeah. Dave, I think you need light on your face. Nah, you don't need to see my face as well as it should. Nah, we're keeping the mood romantic. I actually do. If you could see the reflection of my glasses, I have one of those lights that is actually shining right there. And then, of course, I have some of the neon light. Nah. We're keeping the mood romantic here, Come on. Jeez. It's the Vodka stream. Come on, guys. The Vodka stream lounge that we're doing here. So, but yeah. So we'll see who shows up on the panel. Like I said, obviously the main topic of discussion will be, obviously with what Mr. Zack Snyder showed us earlier today, which I'll pull that up right now because I should have already had that up. But so, it's nothing, nothing too crazy new, anything like that. But hey, well, let's go through some of should I go through some of the tweets? Nah, we don't need to do that right now because, we don't need to do that. It's funny, guys. I will show this tweet right here. This tweet right here, took off today. And I was like, oh, shit. It started reaching those regions where people start pushing back. So I tweeted this out today. Yesterday, Warner Media just changed the movie industry. Today, Mulan is free on Disney+. So, a lot of people dug this. Obviously, it kind of went, over 1,500 likes and 145 retweets. But what was funny is there's pushback because a lot of people were saying yeah, it was already planned. They already were planning on releasing Mulan on Disney Plus for free. It's yeah, I'm just making the joke that, the fact that one day, the day before, and I kind of almost wonder, did Warner Media go, you know what? Let's announce our plan for 2021 a day before Mulan is free on Disney Plus. I almost wonder if there was some kind of strategy right there. I'm just saying. Seems a little interesting. Is that what it is? It is, huh? Yeah. See, thank you, Steven. There's something weird that's going on with this guy. Maybe I should change it. Hold on. Yeah, it's like it's reflecting too much. But then again, it's like let's see. Blue. See, it's just washing out too much. Maybe I should just leave it here. Let's just there you go. You know what? There's too much reflection on it. I don't know. Maybe like I don't have like some. I don't know. It's weird. It is kind of weird how that is. I think it's just because I need a. I don't know what the heck's going on with it. Why it's like because then you could see like part of this my screen right there, that is making it kind of wash out a little bit. Is that because I know I was like, you know what, something doesn't look right when it comes to that. Yeah, it's just like totally washing it out. I don't know. Maybe we should just remove it for today. I'm not really digging it right there. Move Tyler Durden right there. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, because it's just that light. Maybe it's because it's a little too bright. I don't know. See, I can't make it too. I don't know. We'll see. Put it on the shelf. Yeah, no, I should probably put it right there, huh? Here we go. Let's do this instead. Let's just put some more stuff that I have right here instead of a light. Let's do that. Let's put the face hugger next to Tyler. Put the face hugger that says free hugs. So let's do that instead, huh? Better? All right. Good morning. All right. Got to wedge something in front. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I don't know why it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I didn't set it up exactly how I had it set up last time. I don't know. Kind of like I was kind of noticing that, but whatever. It's all good. We'll just keep it like that for now. I'm going to go ahead and remove the overlay of the live stuff, before the guests show up. So we'll just do it like that. So there you go. I don't know. See, we've got some good stuff right there. I decided to bring one of the killer clowns instead today, a little more diverse when it comes to the pops and stuff that are right there. So yeah, I don't know. It's funny too, because I took a picture last week of like the setup to make sure because it's a whole different thing than from over there in my corner where I usually, handle this stuff. So I think it's just, we'll see what happens. You have work tomorrow at 5 a.m., Philip, man. What are you doing? I know you sent me a question, Philip, and we'll get to it. We'll definitely get to it. So don't worry about that. All right. But anyways, yeah. So, yep. All right. So let's go back. But yeah, anyways, what was I was gonna bring up the whatchamacallit. Yeah, but anyways, that tweet just like went out and a lot of people are like, it was already planned. It was already planned for them to release Milan. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I was really talking about. I guess I should have worded it better, but what can you do? But of course, Snyder, he did some sound mixing today right there. Bam. And look at that hashtag. Zaka Snyder's Justice League. That's right. He finally got the title he wanted. Zaka Snyder's Justice League. Yes. Picture start. Yeah. So there you go. Hey, you know what? It happens. Everybody typos. It happens. It happens. It's perfectly fine. It's whatever, guys. But the fact of the matter is like the fact that he actually tweeted out Zack Snyder's Justice League. And that's the first time I think he's actually really done that before. But anyways, guys. All right. So looks like my guests have arrived. So let's get them in here. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and tweet this out. All right, guys, without further ado, the directors of FATMAN. We got Ian and Eshom. Am I saying your name right?
Eshom
Nelms. What's up, the Nelms brothers? What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having us, Dave. Awesome. We're doing good, man. I'm in my basement, hanging out.
Hey, there's nothing. That's a great background, man. Nothing wrong with that. So how you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Like I said, just chilling in the lounge, sipping on some vodka, like I do every Friday night. And I appreciate you guys coming in. Appreciate you guys coming in and talking about your movie, which I enjoyed the absolute shit out of. I will say that. I mean, yeah, I will say that. And of course, we're going to be talking about it. But where are you guys actually located at? You guys are California natives? I was reading your bio and I saw that you guys kind of grew up in California. Are you guys still here, or are you guys both in different places? What's going on?
We're from Central California, so it's like in between Bakersfield and Fresno. Where there's the town we went to high school in is called Visalia. It's like 130,000 people, and then behind that is where we lived a half hour near the Sequoia Forest called Wood Lake, California. And that's right now about 7K population, but when we were growing up, and it was about half that, about 3,500 people were there.
Nice. It's a little small town and stuff. So are you guys still in California? Or are you just...
Now I'm in Woodland Hills, and Eshom lives in LA, like over by the Grove.
Nice.
But yeah, man, but he is now actually, this is probably why his
yeah, I was about to say, we just lost Eshom, man. What happened?
So I'm still here. Hopefully,
we still got some audio. We still got audio, guys. We're good. That's the beauty part about this. You can still have audio. We can hear you still.
Don't worry. So I'm gonna have. Excellent. Yeah. So my connection is so bad that I'm probably gonna have to lose the picture just to keep up with it.
Oh, that's fine.
He's traveling. He went to go pick up his girlfriend and drive back. He was on a road trip from Texas to California, and now he's hanging out in Marfa, Texas. Right, Esh? Is that where you're at?
I am currently in the Marfa area. Yes.
Nice. So you're driving back to California, right? Like just in time for the holidays, or what?
Yeah, it just kind of panned out. So I'm just road tripping back, taking the long way, the meandering way back. We're going to go up and see a bunch of the sites. And Ian and I have been working on this movie for so long that I'm like, okay, I'm taking a vacation. I got to bug out for a minute. So I got
I bet. I wanted to actually ask you guys, like, how long have you been on? Well, first off, I wanted to ask, how did you come up with FATMAN? How drunk were you? How, where did the idea just like spring up? Because I think Ian, you're doing very well with the, Twitter stuff, retweeting everybody. And just like, that's how I pretty much found you, was like, oh, I just got retweeted by one of the directors and now we're following each other. So maybe I'll just have him on the podcast stream. Why not? And then I posted my little first reaction review, which was right after. Right as the credits were rolling, I just rolled camera and I said, "Oh my God, I enjoyed the absolute shit out of this movie." And it was refreshing how original I would say it was. And there's certain aspects that we'll get to that I really liked about your guys' movie. But I want to know exactly like where did the idea come up? Where did the idea spring from? One of you guys, both of you guys? What happened?
Well, we were probably the best way to think about it is that, there's the Tim Allen films, and then there's the Come Down Your Chimney and Chop You Up with an Axe films. And we were like, well, what does like a real Santa look like? And to get a sense of our sensibilities, it's like, I remember Ash and I were recently looking back at the 2 DVDs we first bought. And the first DVD I bought was Unforgiven, and the first DVD that he bought was Unbreakable. And if you kind of mash those 2 DVDs together, you're kind of like, okay, I can see some of the influence for this movie. And then another good thing to have context movies that we love are that we grew up from like age 10 on. Our mom got this thing called the Clint Eastwood collection, where every 2 weeks we get a new Clint Eastwood classics, and it was all the Dirty Harrys, all the Leone westerns, and then the Eastwood Minor as well, like the Firefox and Eiger Sanction, and like all the things he didn't have a trilogy on. but that's what we grew up on. That was basically our cinema diet. So we were like, what would happen if we tried to ground everything about this character and tried to do a very grounded Santa, and then we started thinking about the tropes and the mythos, and like it was like, okay, well, how would that work? And why would the elves really have bells on their feet? And like, what would Santa he's got these kind of superpowers. He's kind of a superpower, like, but what would that really look like he couldn't just like have, you know, a billion people's thoughts in his head or he'd be schizophrenic. So we were like, okay, well, maybe he can look at somebody or look at a name and he kind of gets a download internally and he can be like, oh, there's Mike and he's got a wife. And then, okay, hey buddy, look, you probably shouldn't be hitting on this bartender. Like we just trying to break it all down like that. That's how it started. And then we both wrote a short story. Okay. Probably the only time we've ever done that. But we were like, all right, that's a great idea. That's cool. Here's what I want to do with it. Here's what I want to do with it. And then we both broke off and wrote these short stories very separate from each other. And Eshom wrote one that was very similar to in the direction of what we ended up with something that was more contemporary. And then I wrote something that was more of a prequel origin story. And then when we were looking at them and sitting down and talking about them, we were excited about both of them, but the contemporary one was the only thing that really felt kind of doable as far as like what we were going to be capable of doing at that point in our careers, because it was like 14 years ago. And we were just like, wow, this period piece feels like a $50 million movie, you know, like how the hell are we going to pull that off? And we're like, well, maybe this contemporary one, we could find a way into this and figure out a cool way to do it. But yeah, it took 14 years to get that movie off the ground.
14 years. Wow. You know, it's always amazing when you hear like the story of like, you know, how when you come up with the idea and then of course how long it takes to actually get it up onto the screen. I mean, when it goes to just like writing it down on a napkin or whatever the hell, and then just to have the final product up there. I mean, 14 years to finally see it. I mean, of course, sadly, you know, the year of the pandemic. So it was like, I mean, obviously you want to see it on the big screen, but it's like, you know, streaming services are now just like kind of just taking over right now. I mean, a couple of days ago, Warner Media just goes, hey, we're going to do something different in 2021. Which I was going to ask you guys, you know, we'll ask a little later about what you guys feel about that. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about your movie was, you know, you talked about grounding Santa Claus essentially. And I think I even brought it up in my little review, was the fact that, you know, when you have like, you brought up the Santa Claus, which is one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies. Love that movie. But there's always like this subplot when it comes to like a Santa Claus movie where there's like the disbelievers, like, oh, does he really exist? And whatever, you know, you have the parents that like, oh, he doesn't exist. And but then I'm like, I'm sitting here because my brain just does this thing where it's like, well, what if these parents show up and there's like, you know, there's like a canoe, they didn't buy that and it says from Santa. Right. Wouldn't they like be like scratching their heads? Like, where'd that come from? What you guys did with your movie was like, this world just knows that Santa Claus exists. Like everybody's aware and everybody's cool with it. And it's just like, and that's what I really dug about it.
Well, you know where that came from is literally exactly what you were talking about. We had that conversation and we said, how is it even possible if gifts are popping up that people are, so he has to exist. It was immediately like that, cut and dry. We were like, okay, he has to exist. And now we have to find a way around that. Like now that we're painted into that corner, we have to have that in the movie.
And I don't even think it was painted into a corner, right? Like we were like, oh, we're tired of seeing the version where little Susie doesn't, you know, believes in Santa and her adult parents are like, he's not real. And we're like, oh, forget all that. Like this dude's legitimately real. He's in this world. And that was something that we kind of had to unwind, right? Or like embed in the audience really quickly. And the bat scene with the little placards on the toys, you know, so you could delineate what was from where.
See, and that's what I really enjoyed was the fact that it's like, you know, in the movie you have like certain toys and there's like a brand, there's like a, you know, on whatever that was made in Santa's workshop. And everybody's just like, oh yeah, he does exist. We don't know where he is exactly. You know, nobody knows. But I mean, that's what I really enjoyed was like, oh, okay, you guys are really grounding this in like reality where it's like, this is a business. Like, you know, the workshop is a business. And, you know, when you actually get to the workshop too, and this is another thing I really enjoyed, you know, because, you know, again, I mean, I'll always compare it to the Santa Claus because I think that was, you know, when it comes to a Santa Claus movie before your guys' movies, that was probably the more grounded one as well, but just because of everything that happens in that movie. You know, the sequels got a little more of like, okay, it got a little more crazier, a little more magical, but the first one will always hold that special.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The sequel's fine.
Those are good movies.
Huh?
Like they're good movies.
It's such a great
movie.
The first one especially. I really enjoy the first one. It's really well done. Where he keeps growing the beard and he keeps shaving it off and he's gaining weight.
Everything about it. I mean, like when he gets the packages and all of a sudden it's just like it's the list. And then there's even like a part in there where he just knows who everybody is. And you guys have that a little bit with your movie where he just knows who people are and their backstory. And like you said, certain elements where he just knows like this guy at the bar and knows pretty much a lot about him. And I really dug that. But what I also like too is like, okay, so I was wondering like, how are they going to approach the workshop and the elves? And I think what you guys did was pretty damn awesome. I mean, the little backstory. And then of course, with the, what's happening within the story, which is, Santa has to take on, another contract essentially where, because let's face it, and you guys, I love that this was part of it too, is like, the kids, like a lot of the kids nowadays, they're little assholes, so there's not so much toy making happening so much. So it's like, hey, this is still a business. We still got to do something. So you incorporate something where it's like they have like this whole other contract. And then when there's like the exchange between the elves and like humans, I thought it was actually pretty great what you guys did. I don't know, like, I mean, with the backstory with that, I mean, that must have been a lot of fun.
We had a ton of fun thinking that up. I mean, it was like you said, it was just like, okay, how would it started with us trying to dissect like what these elves would really, what would that factory really look like? And I mean, look, if we'd had $200 million, it probably would have looked a little bit different. But for what we had, we were able to construct something that gave the essence of what we were after, which we basically wanted something that had, that kind of turn of the century industrial revolution feel. And we wanted to have it have the sense of, okay, every century or every decade brings a certain technology that they would embrace and that they would just sort of pilot on top of the old technology and say, okay, well, actually that works great. And you just kind of so it has like this kind of weird 50s aesthetic, but then it's got these kind of rolling lines that they put all the trays on with all the stuff. And we were having a lot of fun putting that together.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember when we saw that location, that was an old chocolate factory.
Yeah.
That we ended up shooting it. And
where'd you guys shoot that at?
We shot the whole picture in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I figured. I mean, that's what I noticed. I mean, it looked fucking cold. It looked cold. So I'm glad for that. Because I mean, sometimes you'll get movies that take place in the winter, and I'm one of those just weirdos that just always looks at like the little details. And when I don't see a breath, I'm like, it's on a set, But you could totally tell that you guys were on location. It was a cold location. That must have been grueling, especially the outside shots.
It was pretty incredible because the shootout, the end shootout, we spent 4 days shooting that. And so we're out in the elements for like 12 to 14 hours of the day. And I just remember especially like when we were shooting with Mel, like he's got a ton of stuff and so does Walton. And so like we're shooting, this is the first day we're shooting, and we break him and we're like, all right, hey man, go to the warming tent. And it's negative 36 degrees out there.
Oh my God.
Negative 36. So Eshom and I and the rest of the crew are all bundled up like we're going to scale Everest. Like we're super padded up and we're still freezing our asses off.
Of course.
He's out there in costume with like fingerless gloves because he has to work the gun. So he's like, and we're like, all right, man, you're cut. Go back to the warming tent, get warm. And he's like, okay. And then we turn around like 20 minutes later and he's right behind us. And we're like, holy shit. Hey, Mel, sorry, did you not hear us? Like, go to the warming tent. Because if you even have your fingers outside of your gloves for 8 minutes, you have irreversible frostbite.
Oh my God.
So you're constantly tucked in with warmers and everything else. But again, he was in his costume the whole time. And we're like, because we would need him on and off. And so he was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the warming tent. And we're like, no, look, like it's bad. He's all, look, man, you're out in this shit. I'm out in this shit. And so he would never go into the warming tent. He stood out there with us the whole time, just regaling everybody in between takes with stories of anything you'd ask him. You're like, hey man, on Apocalypto, or hey man, on Braveheart, or hey on Hacksaw Ridge. And it was amazing because, everybody from the grip to the producers were, asking him all those questions, and he would just tell those stories over and over again. It was great, man. He was a soldier. It really galvanized everybody out there for 4 days straight. It was impressive.
That is awesome. I mean, yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to too, is like you get Mel Gibson. I mean, that's just a good get right there. When you're thinking about, when you're writing this movie, are you thinking of like actors as you guys were writing this and just like who could play this role? I mean, was Mel like your top choice? Was there other choices?
I mean,
when it came to him. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ash.
Well, no, I think the first thing to think about here, Dave, is this is a 14 or a plus 16 probably when we thought of the idea. Then we wrote the first screenplay that was actually coherent and able to pass out to people about 14 years ago. Yeah. So that actor pool was very different from what it is now, in very 2020. True. So when we wrote this script in 14 years ago, like in our mind's eye, we were writing it for Jack Nicholson. Like, oh, Jack Nicholson's going to be Santa Claus, and like we'll get Johnny Depp to play Skinny Man. Like these are the sort of actors that we were, in our mind's eye. But then as we got closer to making it, I think in 2016 or 17, we saw Mel at we went to see Hacksaw Ridge, and he came out to do a director's Q&A afterwards, and he was sitting there with this like beautiful feral beard, and he looked like he had just come off the production, so he's a little wary and a little he's just worn out. He's in the publicity tour, but he still had the spark, right? And so Ian and I look at each other and we're like, oh God, that just feels like Chris. Like that feels like our man. And then cut to
worn out, but still has a passion behind the eyes, and it just struck us right away. We're like, that's the guy.
So cut forward 3. Yeah, so cut forward 3 years, like we had to formally submit, obviously through the agents and all that good stuff, and so our producers reached out, and we had written them a letter, and
address for real quick, because I think one of the important for the filmmakers that are watching this, I think like one of the most important things we did, but one of the biggest problems we had was when we were going out with the script, and why it took 14 years is that we would get people reading it and they would say, oh, this is fucking batshit crazy and awesome, and like they would probably call us into meetings just because they wanted to see the two psychopaths that wrote the script, and they're like, who are these maniacs? So we would go in and they would say, okay, someone's gonna make this. That was the line that we got every meeting, was someone's gonna make this. I don't know if it's gonna be you guys. And we're like, why? What's if you like the script, like, let's do it. And they're like, well, look, it's director dependent. It's what's the tone on this thing? And we're like, well, it's in the script. We didn't quite understand what they meant when we first started. And they were like, no, if you give this to this director, it's going to be slanted this way. If you give it to this director, it's going to be tonally slanted this way, because it shifts in the script. Like, how do you guys see it? So we talked about all of our influences, and they were just like, well, look, you're going to have to do something that shows that you can handle this tone and what your vision is like. So that was 14 years ago, and we literally went home after a couple of meetings for that, and we said, okay, we need to start building ourselves a ladder of how we're going to get back to this film. And so we wrote a script that was in like the $5 million realm. And that was kind of what you were doing at the time. Like, early 2000s, people would, we did a couple of nano budget films. We did like a $1,500 feature and a $5,000 feature. And those got us into those B+ festivals, no Sundance, but like Palm Beach and Santa Barbara, and like festivals that like had some prestige to them, but they weren't like we could make a sale out of there. But they were cool, and we got some awards in those festivals with those little films, and those got us agents and whatnot. And they were like, hey, stop making these little films. Like, let's go make a $5 million film. And they read FATMAN, because we had it at the time, and they said, okay, well, go make that. Let's make that $5 million film. So we wrote that script, and then right when we got the thing going, it was like it gets all messed up, and the financial crisis happens, and there's a writer's strike, and there's a
bad time.
The DVD market dies.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So that $5 million
2008, right? Yeah.
Oh, it was a fucking disaster. Yeah. And they said, okay, well, that $5 million film is now a $2 million film. You guys do
shit.
And we're like, fuck, no, we can't. So we're like, all right, well, let's go write a $2 million film. So we went and wrote a $2 million film, which is Small Town Crime, which was the film we shot before this.
Yeah,
and we wrote that film, and we came back out with it a year later. And then we had the same folks read it, and they were like, okay, well, look, like, I hate to tell you this, but over this past year that you guys have been writing, like, this is kind of like, look, I know you've made those two no budget films, but you need to make something with some stars in it and some actors that we of note that we know you can handle a movie with bigger actors. And we're like, fuck, okay, well, what's the budget on this thing? You said 2, and they're like, well, it's now 200,000. Can you do this for $200,000?
Wow.
Because in that year, that DVD market went from like, it went from like, it's kind of a 60% what it used to be down to like fucking 15% of what the market used to be within a year. And there was no DVD market at all. It was just fucking gone. And so we're like, now you need to write something that's $200,000. And we're like, holy shit. So then we got kind of.
Well, and it was at this weird impasse, right? So like the streamers and on demand hadn't quite filled the void. And yet you had everything in DVD dying. And it was this weird moment in time.
And so we just said, fuck it. We're going to write something that, we're super passionate about, that, go back to the well of like where we grew up and where we're from. And so we wrote something called Lost on Purpose. And we just went and raised the $200,000 ourselves. And we shot it in our hometown. And of course, it's that we picked a genre that everybody wants, the epic dairy film. It was about a dairy farm.
That's what everybody wants right there.
And but we won about 20 B+ film festivals with that thing, won awards, audience awards and writing awards and whatnot, and best film awards. And we had a really good run with that movie. And while we were making that festival round, somebody saw it and said, and we had like Jane Kaczmarek and James Lafferty from One Tree Hill, and we had a lot of great actors, Aaron Hill from Greek, but just a bunch of great young actors. And then we had Jane Kaczmarek and C. Thomas Howell come in for kind of our veterans.
Nice.
And that was kind of finally showing people like, oh wow, okay, you guys, you know how to work with bigger actors or actors that have career actors, and then someone saw that film and said, on the festival circuit, said, hey, I've got the rights to this book and I got $500,000. Would you guys look at it? Because they knew we turned that movie in for $200,000, and they were pretty impressed with the cast and the size of the film for that budget. And they said, I got $500,000 and I got this rights to this book. Can you read the script that I have, which is budgeted at like 20 million right now, and see if there's any way you could figure out how to do it for $500,000? And so we read the script and we talked it over, and we've spent some time in the restaurant business, as you do as you're trying to make ends meet.
Of course. And
had a couple of false starts on the waiting style script that we're like, waiting already did it.
I was about to say, I was like, that sounds like a waiting style kind of, yeah.
But this one had a really cool hook in it. It was a guy who ran like a $30 billion hedge fund. He got caught up in the housing crisis, and then he comes back down and goes bankrupt and tries to rebuild himself. It was kind of a Pinocchio story. The guy working the grill, who ended up being Danny Glover, like turns him into a real boy, teaching him the life lessons, as his privileged life gets kind of ripped away from him. But so we ended up shooting that film, which was pretty amazing. James Lafferty and Danny Glover. And then after that one, those producers were like, hey, what else do you guys have? Like, that was a great experience. Do you guys have anything else? And we said, well, we've got these crime thrillers that we've been working on for like a decade.
Nice.
Exactly. And then we showed them Small Town Crime, and they were like, I think we can get the money for this. We said, oh, fucking great. And then, so that film goes. And then when we finished that film, it had a similar enough tone to Small Town Crime or to FATMAN that we were able to point back at it when we went into meetings, and we said, hey, this is the tone of that film. So sorry, that was a very long digression, but I think it's needed because FATMAN's a pretty wild film, and it's like, well, how did you get greenlit on a fucking wild ass film like that? And it was like, because of the last one, which was a long build up to it.
That's what you got to do, really, is like you got to build up that. It's almost like you built up that street cred almost. Like, it's like, hey, we're going to do these movies. We have these right here, and just kind of show everybody that, hey, we can handle it. And like you said, when everybody was wondering, when they read the script, I'm assuming that everybody's like, when they read the script, they're just like, like, where's this actually going? It sounds kind of cool on paper, but what, the tone, maybe somebody has a different tone in their head when they're reading it. So of course they're going to ask you. So then when you finally like shot a movie that you nailed that tone, you can finally refer to it, and then people can kind of get an idea. So then when they read it, they could be like, oh, okay, maybe we can, put a little fundage behind this, and this could go somewhere. So that's good.
Exactly. And when we did Small Town Crime, I remember when the producers read it, and we pitched, hey, this is what we're going to do with it, and the money folks. And then when we showed them the final product, they didn't quite understand that it was going to be so quirky and have like these Western undertones and be this darkly comedic. And I remember them going, fuck, we didn't quite read all that into it. And I think what we were trying to do was take a tried and true genre, like a crime genre, you could see it as, okay, this fits into the crime genre. I see what the market is for this movie, but then obviously just do our thing to it. Like have our characters, have our voice, tell us, have some of those crazy dark comedic moments that we love to put into stuff. Yeah. And then once we were able to show people like, hey, this is our style and this is the tone and this is how they were all kind of meshed together. Yeah, it was a lot easier conversation in those meetings.
So like after you do all that, when did you actually get this movie greenlit?
So it took a minute. There was a couple false starts. Yeah,
there were a couple false starts, but the most important thing was getting Mel on board. That really was the kind of
yeah. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Mel Gibson. I mean, I will always I'll die on this hill. He is in one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made. Lethal Weapon. I don't care what anybody says. That is a Christmas movie. So I mean, to have him. I mean, so when you pitched him the idea, I mean, was he like fully like on board? Did he just read the script and go, "I want to do this," or like what? I mean, we were talking about Mel a little bit, before, but we didn't ever talk about like, when you read the script, did he just like immediately just go, "I want to do this"?
Or so I think so. Once so we submitted to him. And then we wrote him a letter and we're like, hey, Mel, like, here's why we think you'd be awesome for it. And here's what we envision. And you look awesome in a beard, right? That's like a letter we wrote him. And then it was like 2 weeks of radio silence. And we're like, oh man, like maybe,
the longest week of your life.
It was unbearable.
Yeah.
Right. And we're like, okay, like who do we have to think about next? Like, okay, let's get the, let's like start making the list.
Beard? Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Ian gets an email.
Yeah, and it's like we'd been emailing back and forth with a bunch of producers, so it was a lot of like, hey, let's sit down and talk about the script, and and so I got this email that said, hey, I like the script, I think it's really funny, like let's sit down for a chin wag. And we're like, okay, well, what is a chin wag? First off,
that sounds a little interesting.
Yeah. And so and it wasn't signed off. There was no name on it. And the email wasn't like, Braveheart guy 25. So we were just trying to figure out who the hell it was. And I wrote him back like, hey, great. I'd love that you enjoyed it. Like, can we, who am I talking to? And then he goes, oh, sorry, I forget to sign off sometimes. Mel. And I was like, holy shit. And it
is Mel. Wow.
Yeah. Ash and I, I'm sure we hugged after that moment, but it was pretty great. And that was really the moment that kind of kicked off. They're like, okay, you can have 45 minutes with him in this cafe. Go have a meeting with him. Great. And then that turned into like 3.5 hours of us, talking about movies and life and FATMAN. And it really came down to this amazing moment where we knew we had the right guy when he was talking about the moment where he's standing on the balcony, he's talking to the elves. And he's like, I really feel like I'll like that moment. It's like a pretty dark moment and maybe me at my lowest. And I'm trying to tell these guys like what we're going to have to do. And it's breaking my heart. And I'm really down and I'm like I'm going to cry. And we're like, yeah, exactly. And he goes, and I think that's what's going to make it so funny. And we're all exactly, man.
He understood. I mean, it sounds like you guys just, right there at that moment, you guys got in sync because that's like one of the best scenes in the movie is when he has to break it to the elves of like, what is going to be happening moving forward. And it sounds like, that's where it all kind of just locked in with you guys.
Yeah, he got it. He just got it.
He also said like, I feel this guy's like an old cowboy.
Yeah.
And that was like, yes, absolutely. We're going for like a contemporary Western vibe,
We knew we were rolling into a contemporary Western. When he started talking about the main character as a cowboy, we're like, okay, great. He's totally synced up with this thing.
Oh yeah. And then when pretty much, I think it's like the first time you see him, I mean, he's literally shooting cans. And that's like another thing that I loved about his character is like, even though he's the fat man, he's still in a pretty good shape. I mean, you got him like punching the bag. I mean, he's a strong dude, even though, he might have a little bit of a gut because obviously he loves his cookies. That's for damn sure. Which you
It's funny you say that though, because the irony or the juxtaposition of title to man was exactly what we were after,
Yeah.
Like we were after that calling fat man, but because like what your image of Chris is or what Santa is not what he is. And that's exactly what we were having fun with. with that.
That's what I like about it, because, you know, obviously, you know, when you think it's Santa, it's just a, you know, jolly old fat man. But I mean, this is like, yeah, he's got a little bit of a gut, but he's got some fucking shoulders. He's got, you know, he's got some gun, man. He's got some pecs too. I mean, geez.
No, I remember
we were specific with that. Like, we were talking to Mel about that, and we're like, yeah, man, like, he's got a little bit of a gut, but he's got like jacked forearms and biceps and like shoulders. And Mel's like, okay, yeah, I got it. He's in the gym just like killing it.
Yeah, I don't know if he was just going to the gyms and eating Twinkies at the same time or what, but he fucking nailed it when he got there. We're like, dude, perfect. He's like, this is all right. We're all, dude, it's perfect.
That's what I was wondering too, because like, you know, I remember, I mean, seeing Mel Gibson like a, you know, a couple of years ago, and like, you know, just him like walking out of the gym, like a paparazzi picture. And all of a sudden I'm like, dude, Mel Gibson is like fucking jacked right now. Look at him. He's like 60 something years old and he's jacked. And then, but then in here, it's like, yeah, he's got the gut, but he's also got the, you know, he's still got the broad shoulders and everything like that. So it seemed like he got in like just the right amount of shape. But like you said, maybe he's like punching the bag, you know, doing the bench, but also, you know, eating a donut every now and again or something like that, just to get that mushy center.
And that was the funny thing, because I mean,
absolutely,
he literally was showing us pictures of what he had looked when we sat down with him. Maybe it was the second time we sat down with him, or maybe he was texting us pictures, but he was like something like this, and he's like not like this, and he showed us something from like 8 months ago, and he was like ripped as hell, and we're like, holy shit, like you like tearing it up in the gym, dude. You look fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Well, no, like you gotta have a little more of a belly. And I remember him just being like, all right, I think I got it then. But he was sending us pictures of like, I looked like this 8 months ago. I looked like, you know, he was like something like this and something like that. And we're all, yeah, but with forearms and then a little bit of a belly. He's like, okay. But I mean, I think that honestly is just such a commitment to performance and what we were after and what he was willing to do. It was fucking awesome, man. Like he was willing to just, you know, it wasn't like a total transformation, but it was enough to where you're like, okay, I see it. He's got a little bit of belly.
Yeah, because when I was watching it, I'm like, is he going to be wearing a bodysuit? Because I mean, I'm like, the pictures that I've seen of Mel Gibson, I'm like, he's been looking pretty jacked and pretty, you know, kind of lean, you know. Yeah. But you know, but when you see him with like out his shirt, it's like, no, that's not a bodysuit. He fucking, you know, he committed to this role, and that's awesome. I mean, to have somebody of his caliber, you know, for like a smaller kind of movie that's just like an outlandish movie about a grounded like Santa Claus, the fact that he just, you know, devoted to it with his body and everything, that's fucking awesome. That's awesome. And I'm wondering too, like,
bicep curls.
What's up? Go ahead.
While eating donuts.
Yes,
bicep curls while eating donuts.
I mean, it sounds like that was the regimen right there. I mean, if we could all pull that off, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, I think he's gonna be, you know, I mean, sexiest man of the year. I mean, come on. No, well, I mean, obviously it was Michael B. Jordan, but I mean, Mel Gibson, he could still pull it off. But I mean, sexiest man of the year. That's for sure. Okay, let's talk about some of the other cast members. Walton Goggins. How did you land him? Walton Goggins is great. I mean, a little backstory of how, like, it just seems like the first time I saw Walton Goggins was Major League Back to the Minors. I don't know if you guys, anybody's seen the third Major League movie that wasn't really up there with the other two Major League movies, but he was in the third Major League movie. And I actually, when I was younger, I loved that movie. I loved the whole entire Major League franchise. The first one's my favorite baseball movie ever. And that was the first time I saw Walton Goggins. And then it just seemed like he popped up in every fucking thing that he just pops up. Hey, Walton Goggins, there he is.
Yeah,
the movie sucks. He's great. And then to have him as the skinny man, which I love the fact that his character is the skinny man, and he's like this, you know, he's got a little bit of a screw loose, you know, he had a bad traumatic childhood that unravels, that you kind of see unraveling throughout the story. And when he's kind of, you know, searching for Chris, you know, you see the unraveling happening, and then it's just, I don't know, he's just so great. So how did you guys land him?
I mean, he wasn't initially in our minds, honestly. Like we were talking to about a dozen possibilities for the skinny man. I don't want to get into who those were, but they were all great fucking choices, and we were excited about all of them in a certain different way. And it was literally like, okay, well, if he's going to do this with the character, he's probably going to do something like kind of like this. You could kind of get you know how you know an actor by their work, and you're kind of like, okay, well, they're going to kind of give this vibe to it. And we were really having a hard choice. And I remember ICM was like, well, hey, what do you think about Walton Goggins? And we were like, fuck, I don't know why he wasn't in our mental radar, but yes, that's a fucking great idea. And so well, hey, go sit down and see if you guys gel with him. He really enjoyed the script. We're like, okay, great. And so we go sit down with him, and like, it was just undeniable within about 5 minutes of the meeting, because it's like, oh yeah, hey, and he's super gregarious and wonderful to sit down with and talk to, and he's just a great guy. And then within 5 minutes, he's like, so I read the script, and I mean, guys, and we start talking about the moment, and then 2 seconds after that, he's standing up and like, and I got this fucking elf, and I'm like, oh my God, fucking going down, and you're like, holy shit, like it just all kind of melts away, and you're like, there he is. There's the skinny man. We knew right away that, like, as soon as he started doing a couple pieces out of the film in a cafe, we were like, fuck, that's the guy. Like, there was no other choice for us.
No, he's great. I mean, it was like a perfect choice, just a perfect, like, opposite to Mel, especially. And then, of course, when they finally just like the showdown at the end, I mean, it's like, it's on right there. And it's a absolutely great scene. And then you got Marianne Jean Baptiste. I mean, she's been in a lot of things. She's pretty veteran, I guess you could say. And to have her play, I mean, essentially she's Mrs. Claus. And I thought the scenes with her and Mel, I mean, with all the craziness of this story, it's almost like, when they're together and she kind of busts his balls a little bit. I really dug that. Their chemistry is absolutely fantastic.
I think a lot of that was like drawn from our own parents' relationship.
Yeah.
So to be perfectly honest, like our parents had a business together. They had a photography studio together for like 20 years. Oh, wow. And our father was very much the front man of the business, but without our mother, who was a wonderful compliment to him and actually a very accomplished photographer in her own right, like the business would have been shut down, because our dad, God love him, like cannot balance a checkbook, cannot make his bills on time. Like, he absolutely needed mom to keep the thing running.
Yeah, you really get that sense, like, because obviously you got Kris Kringle, who's, fronting the business, and then she's like in the background, she's behind him, and when he just doesn't know exactly what to do, she's like right there with the answer, or she's helping him out or something like that. And it's just like, I don't know, I just thought their scenes together were really, really well done, and their chemistry was pretty damn good.
They were so effortless together on the set. I mean, in between takes, they were cracking jokes with each other and punching each other in the shoulder and laughing. Like, I mean, it was really fun to just watch them hang out and then start a scene. It was just a couple of old pros just knocking it down, man. It was really amazing, and you could really feel that warmth on set too. But with Marianne, I mean, we needed a woman that could be, because I mean of how she's going to finish this film out.
Yeah,
like we needed somebody with enough motherly warmth, sort of underneath this layer of alpha of, like, that she can get shit done, and so that at the end of the film, when she does her thing, I don't want to ruin it if people haven't watched it, but when she does her thing at the end of the film, that you can believe that she can go there, that you can believe that she's capable of doing that. And those were the sort of two things we were really weighing in when we were talking to Ruth, as we were trying to figure out, okay, did they have this like front of like strength, and then do they have this undercurrent of warmth under them?
Yeah, you definitely captured that. Go ahead.
And we also just really loved Marianne's British accent. Remember when we were talking with her about the character, she's like, what's my dialect? Like, where am I from? She's like, we want me to be from this region or that region in the US. I'm like, oh, no. Like, we want, like, what, the British, the UK accent, like that gives it a more international feel. Yeah.
Like, you start thinking about, like, how did they meet? And like, what is this? Where did this relationship start? Which is a lot of fun to think about.
Oh yeah, no. There's so much you can like do with the story. And one other actor I wanted to ask about too is the kid who played Chance.
Yeah.
When I first saw that kid, I was like, "Fuck that kid." You guys had a good kid where I was just like, the facial expressions that he has. Like in the beginning when it comes to the science fair thing, where he's trying to win the ribbon and whatever. Just the look on the looks on his face, you're just like, man, fuck this kid. But you guys did a good job of casting a kid that could really exude that, that assholery that obviously is one of the main plot points, is the fact that, half the kids out there are just pieces of shit now. So that's why, we got to do some alternative stuff when it comes to the workshop. But when it came to casting the character of Billy, I mean, how was that process?
It was pretty incredible. We started out with just like, the sort of Star Search, okay, send in your tape kind of thing, because we didn't quite know where to start. So we got a ton of submissions in, via video, and we just started watching them. We started wading through them, and then he stood out so well. We were just like, oh my God, like, who is this kid? And he was so good at what he was doing in the tape that we were just like, we got to meet this kid, because I don't really know if he's like, if he's going to be like a little tyrant on set. Like he seems like such an ass. Like, are we going to be able to win this guy?
Because we weren't familiar with his work at all, and we're like, maybe he's too good. You know what I'm saying? We're like, we got to meet him. So that's we're like, let's get the video, the Zoom conference on. Let's see.
No, man, he nailed it. I mean, like I said, like after like when you first see him, you're like, fuck this kid. But it sets up, of course, the whole plot with everything, and it's absolutely fantastic. So so you made this movie, is there any thoughts of like sequel or anything? Do you have ideas? Has there been anybody approaching you about, hey, I mean, I saw that. I think Ian, you were like tweeting out stuff where like when it came to Christmas movies, it was like number 2, maybe it reached number 1 of streaming movies.
We're number 2 this week so far, but we were number 3 all last week, and we're number 2 all this week. So
good
so far. But yeah, the only thing in front of us is Elf right now. That Elf.
Fucking Elf, man. That movie's always, it's always there.
We got to catch us an Elf or something like that.
Yeah. You got to have Will Ferrell in your next one. No, but is there any like thoughts about doing a sequel, or what's happening? I mean, you already have people like, there's already people in the chat that are like, let's do FATMAN Returns. We got FATMAN versus Krampus.
We've got some ideas. Like I said, we wrote the other short story we wrote was a prequel. It was an origin story. So we absolutely want to play in that realm. And then of course we've had 14 years to kind of think of what we would do with it if we had a sequel. So we've definitely got some ideas of what we set up and where we would go with it. But yeah, we're super excited to do another one, and our distributor and producers have been asking us about it as of at the end of last week. They're like, okay, what are we doing? What are you guys doing for it too? So I mean, there's still a lot of questions on the board, which I think our team's jumping into, our agents and whatnot, and managers are trying to figure out all that jazz with the producers right now. But yeah, I mean, it would be great to jump into writing the sequel and getting rolling on that. We couldn't think of anything funner to do.
It's pretty cool.
We're just thrilled to continue the legacy and the saga, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much you could work with there. I mean, that's what was pretty great about it. It's like, when I'm watching it and I'm going, okay, are they going to have, there's the elves. Oh, you even have the reindeer. It's all there. And I love the fact too, that it's like, you don't really see the whole Santa Claus thing, but it's like, he just goes out and he has to do this important job, of course, one time a year. And then he comes home and he just lays down next to his wife, and it's just like another night of work, and it's just like normal. But, something might have happened, a little mishap happened. I won't say exactly what it was, but it was just great how it's just, okay. And, there's stuff you could probably do with that. And then I even have a Patreon question from Philip Barker, who, of course, he asked about Mel. We already talked about that. But he said also he was curious if you guys developed a Bad Kids and the Skinny Man, like how you guys wait, what did he say? I thought he was okay. Like if there was going to be like any kind of spinoffs or like branching off into like I don't know, maybe like a cinematic universe where maybe you have the Tooth Fairy or Easter Bunny or something like that. Have you ever guys thought about that, or even branching off doing a prequel about the Skinny Man or whatever the hell?
I mean, look, the Santa lore has so many things in it that I think throughout the world of Christmas, I think we've got a ton to play with. I don't know. I don't know. Interesting. It would be interesting to think of a grounded version of the Easter Bunny and how that would play into anything.
Yeah, I know. That'd be the most outlandish one.
But those are the fun ideas that are there, right? It's like, okay, well, how did that myth get started of a giant bunny running around delivering eggs?
Yeah, it really, I mean, when you really think about it, it's like, does that even make sense? You got a giant bunny and he gives you eggs. Bunnies don't like eggs.
Great Cadbury.
Yeah. The eggs that he might put in your basket that are brown, you might not want to put those in your mouth. I'm just saying. Yeah, they might not taste good. So yeah, it's always a little weird. But I mean, I know I even think I think maybe the third Santa Claus kind of like touched bases on like the other mythical
Jack Frost or whatever, right?
Jack Frost, and that they did Tooth Fairy. I think they even did the Easter Bunny. So yeah, it's a little interesting. You might that you're definitely going to have to really think hard about how you ground something like that. But I think a lot of people are really like, you could do probably a lot with either a prequel, like you said, you guys wrote, or even, and then parlay that, maybe have like a back and forth where it's like you got prequel and sequel and it just kind of links up together. I don't know. There's so many ideas out there, but
Yeah, and we're excited to dive into them. Like I said, we've got a ton of ideas. It is, like you just said, it's more of a culling down process of what do we want to tackle next in it, and where do we think it'll go for a third and whatnot. Like what do we want to leave open, because you gotta think of one more step ahead, right? Because when we did this one, we had an idea of what the sequel would be and a prequel would be, but now it's like, okay, well, when you do the sequel, what's the trilogy? What does that look like? What's that third one look like? Where do we want to go with that?
Yep. And then that's the hard part too. It's like when going back to the Santa Claus, it went from like this, like almost like a reality-esque, Santa Claus movie. And then it just went to like, oh, okay, now we got the Mrs. Claus. We could work with that. And then it went to the whole Jack Frost thing. And maybe it got a little bit weird, but of course that first movie, is a classic. But oh man, what was I
think Ian and I, it's funny, we've been having these conversations. We're like, okay, if this is Mad Max, what's our Road Warrior? Right? If this is our Alien,
and you
what's our Aliens?
And you literally have Mad Max as your actor. That's what's so great about it too. And that's what I was going to ask. Was there any like discussions with Mel about a possible sequel? Is he fully down for it or what? Or is he going to be going off doing Lethal Weapon 5, which apparently he said could happen?
Dude, I would love to see
Lethal Weapon 5, so it's not getting in the way of that. But
hey, you know what? They're not too old for this shit. Let them fucking do it. Danny Glover, he's older than Mel. We've seen what Mel looks like and what he's capable of. He could still do his thing, but man, was there any talk of like a Lethal Weapon 5? Did you guys ask? Yeah, you had to ask.
Oh, of course.
We asked.
We absolutely asked.
Yeah, you have to ask that question. I know it was funny because last weekend, I think it was because we had the long Thanksgiving weekend, and I was like, you know what, the first Christmas movie I'm putting on is Lethal Weapon, and that parlayed to like watching the entire franchise all the way to 4. And then I think even on my one of my live streams, I talked about how Mel Gibson on I don't know, I'm not sure what show he was on. He said that a Lethal Weapon 5 is most likely going to happen, and I'm just sitting there going, how is that going to be possible? But obviously they can make it work, and I just want to fucking see it.
He told us a little bit of tidbits, which I'm not going to.
I don't think we can disclose any of those.
No,
we can't.
I'm not going to disclose them, but yeah, it sounded awesome. And he was talking about Dick Donner coming back and doing it. I'm like, how is it?
Really?
Yeah, that he was pumped to do it.
Like Dick's 90 or something, right? But it's like amazing.
I was like, he still got it. He's still got it. He's still got it. He's all there, baby. He's all there. I was like, wow, okay, this is gonna be epic. So I think that's what they're really excited about, is to bring the whole team back.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what we'd all be excited about.
Yeah,
you got to have everybody back. And then of course, when you watch the 4th Lethal Weapon, they leave it off of Riggs has a kid. And then, and then Murtaugh, he has a grandkid. So it's like you could play with something with that, because that was like 22 years ago. So like those kids are grown up now. So now they could be like something where it's like you got the grandkid of Murtaugh, and then you got the kid of Riggs, who, that maybe they can mentor, but then they're also like a little bit involved in the action, because you gotta have them involved in the action a little bit. But I just thought, Danny Glover though, I'm just like, man, he would have to be more of a captain, or, something where he's just maybe sitting back. But then again, maybe he can have that. He's got to have that moment where he does his little breaking, cracking of the neck before he shoots his 6-shooter. You got to have that moment, obviously. But then you got to have Riggs, doing something. And I think Mel Gibson's perfectly capable of still doing that. So, But when you guys like were working on this, did you guys actually discuss maybe a possible sequel, and how did he feel about it?
We talked about. I mean, we told Marianne and Mel that we had intentions of continuing to do them, and we've since hit them both up and said, hey, you guys cool with that? And I mean, from what look, there's 600 miles to go on anybody's deal or anything, or what we want to do or when we want to do it, but everyone seems down. So
good.
Yeah, the opening conversation was positive, very positive.
That's good. Always good. And so what about any other projects that you guys are doing right now? Is there anything in the works, or is it just strictly right now FATMAN?
We've got a couple scripts that we're really excited about. There's also a couple things coming in that we've been reading that we've been trying to wrap our heads around, if we want to jump into or not. But yeah, we've got this script that's kind of a sci-fi horror script that we're really pumped about. That we might, we're still in the middle of writing the script, but that's always one of the funnest parts is, Esh and I sit around throwing the ball back and forth, kind of creating it. And I don't know, we love world building. We love coming up with unexpected things that would subvert your expectations in the genre. So those are, I mean, I don't know, man. We've got a lot of stuff ahead of us, I think, that we really want to do. It's just like, what's gonna go pop out first. It's just, you can't tell. It might be like, you just never know. From what we know of what our past has been, it's just like you have these expectations, and then it's you have to go at those full tilt, but you have to also be prepared for a digression or a left turn, and then you have to kind of U-turn your way back to that other one. Sometimes those happen, and you just got to be mentally ready for that, because it's a marathon.
Yeah, and I would say that we didn't expect to be able to make FATMAN this soon. We thought it was going to take at least one more movie.
That was an amazing, right turn instead of a left, because we thought we were gonna have to do one more movie just because size of movies. Because Small Town Crime's like about a $2 million movie, and we jumped quite a bit up on this one. Which it's funny because ever since we made the $200,000 movie, all the movies have really felt about the same though. So, which is nuts, because you always the $200,000 movie, you kind of have about 30 people on set that you're working with, and then that's always kind of your base, and there's extensions out from there on these bigger sets, but it's just different little groups of people working on different things, and it always feels like when you're shooting, it's the same damn size of a movie. Same core people are there, same support team. It just goes out a little wider.
Like, so say like, because this actually has happened with like certain directors and stuff like that. Say like, Marvel or somebody like that all of a sudden reaches out, because sometimes they'll just like, hey, let's get like some directors or our director that like not many people might know, but we liked what they did with this. If they were to reach out to you for like maybe doing like a big superhero movie, would you guys be down for doing any? Is there any particular superhero movie? I mean, obviously I got some stuff behind me right here, but is there any particular like superheroes that you guys dig or anything like that?
Well, I think like, just to point at your wall first and foremost, like, look, like Batman is awesome because he's a normal dude, right? Like that's the sort of superheroes that we gravitate towards. Look, Superman's tricky, right? Because he's almost invincible except for kryptonite. So you have to keep circling around to the kryptonite or whatever it's going to be.
His own kind has to come, one of his own, someone that's an equal to him. So you've only kind of got plot choices there.
Yeah, or like it's the alien world with like 50,000, robot drones or whatever it is that come down. So there's like only so many things, But I think we tend to gravitate towards those more humanistic superheroes, so to speak.
One of our favorite superheroes is Punisher.
There you go.
Because he's just a human being, and he's literally, it's more like his superpower is up here. You know what I mean? It's his willpower, and it's his stamina, and it's his ability not to quit and to keep thinking and to keep trying. And like, I really like that superhero. I think a lot of people have done some cool things with him, but I mean, it's not what we would do with him. We would take him in a little bit of a different direction and do our thing with him that we would be excited about. But that would be a superhero that would be a comic book that we would be pumped to do. Some of our other favorite superhero or comic books are like Sam and Twitch. Like, we're big Sam and Twitch fans. Michael Bendis did a couple of books that we really love. Yeah,
There was another comic. There was another comic book that we really here that we although we don't know much about it, admittedly, but the idea was cool, and that was like Booster Gold.
Oh yeah, Booster Gold. I mean, yeah, he's a. I mean, when it comes to the DC universe, I mean, he's almost Deadpool-ish, I guess you could say, if you were to compare him to like somebody to a character that maybe a lot of people would know. Is like he's more comedic and the range that he can have. Obviously, he does like some time traveling stuff. Yeah, you could actually do a lot with that, and to take if you guys were to take your humor towards it, I mean, yeah, it could really be something. Somebody actually asked too if you guys picked Mel's brain about Passion too, about Passion.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Fuck. I mean, is that happening? I mean, I remember hearing about it, and it was like, is that happening? I mean,
from what I've seen and to what I can comment on to what's already out there is that he's put out a couple of statements already and like Jim Caviezel's already weighed in. Like all that shit is legit. That was seriously legit, and that was happening while we were in post. So like they're passing scripts around and they're talking about it and they're pumped about it. So crazy. I haven't read it, but and I don't know.
It sounds
what he said.
Truly epic.
Fucking amazing.
Of the grandest scale.
I mean, the sequel to that movie, obviously. I mean, one of the things that I was always baffled about when you watch that movie, well, even like the idea of that movie. I mean, it must have been. I mean, didn't he financed that movie himself, right? That was all Mel that kind of did it. He didn't. I don't think any production company was like, let's have this much budget. I think he kind of like had to almost do it himself or something.
From what he told us, there was a because we asked him about that as well. Yeah. I think any filmmaker that's like, okay, how did you get that? How did you put your film together? That's always like one of the bigger questions to ask people of any size of budget, because it's such an education. Like what he says is that he pretty much was able to structure the financing very typically. Now, whether that was his money in, and then you do your foreign and yada yada blah blah blah, and you have your film, so you put a third or 30% or 50% of your actual cash in, and then you raise it through other markets and tax incentives and whatnot, and then you get your 100% of your budget. But he was telling us that it was mainly, which I think is also public knowledge in other places, is that it was the distribution deal is where he made a really good deal, in that he picked a smaller distributor to put the film out so that he could have more control over how it was distributed and where he went with it and how he publicized it and how he did promotions for it. And so the distributor, the one that he picked was like, well, okay, we'll however you want to do it, we'll do it that way. And then of course it was a really successful campaign. It was a damn good movie. So
yeah, I mean, I just trying to like imagining like him pitching the movie to a studio, because you're like, hey, I want to do this movie about Jesus. And so the studio heads are probably like, oh, sweet, walk on water, turn, water into wine, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no. I want to show when he was getting whipped and he was like nailed to the cross. We're going to show him basically dying. And I'm sure a lot of studios were like, fuck no, we don't want to show that. Because when you watch that movie, I mean, God damn it. I mean, he really feel that thing. I mean, that's what I love about Gibson as a filmmaker. When I watched Hacksaw Ridge, I had anxiety watching that movie. The whole like final act when Andrew Garfield, is like not using the gun and he's like trying to get everybody off that ridge. I was seriously just like uneasy in my chair, and that's what's so great about him as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Just and then I can only imagine just like working with him. Like you said, he was always like behind you, even though it was like freezing cold. It seems like he's always like wanting to have like, his like fingertips at least in like a little bit of everything, so he knows, exactly what's going on.
Well, I think he just sees everything.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh, hey, what lens is that on there? He's not telling you what to do in any way, shape, or form. He's making suggestions also, but every suggestion is sort of couched in like, hey, what do you think of this? Take it or leave it. Like he's so very respectful of the process and the collaboration that way.
Yeah, that was one of the most amazing things, is that when we were on set, of course, we had the butterflies. We're sitting there directing like a multiple Oscar winner. It's like, what are we gonna say to this guy if he doesn't agree with us, or if he wants to do something different, or he does it this way, kind of thing. It's like, what are we going to do with that?
Intimidating as hell, man. Shit.
So, but he made it really easy on us, and that's why I think he's such a great actor, great director, is that he's been in front and behind the camera at the highest levels. And so, like, when he would come with a suggestion, he would literally come up and be, just so amazing. He would say, "Hey guys, I got an idea. Take it or leave it, throw it out, whatever. But I'm just going to throw it out there. And if you guys think it's cool, let's try it." And we're like, he's like, "If not, let's just squash it and figure out what we can do." We're like, all right, amazing. So he instantly disarms you. You're like, fuck, okay, whatever it is, Mel, like, let's try it. But that's why I think our attitude, especially towards a lot of the actors that we bring in, whether they're Mel Gibson or a guy that's got like a line, is like, you hire a person usually for a very specific reason, and you want to hear their input, and you want to hear it because you hire them because they're talented in some way.
Collaboration, yeah.
And you're like, what like with Walt and Mel and Marianne and Chance, just because those are our top four. I mean, the same thing happened with Eric, who was the elf, and Robert, who was the Captain Jacobs, but and all the way down. But you want to hear their input, because the great thing about those actors is they're coming in, they're picking up something that you wrote, of course, but then they're also like, they're putting months of thought into backstory and nuance, and what can I give you with a movement instead of with another added word, and what can I do here to layer this so it means something 2 scenes later. And like, we want to lean into that talent, because that's what you're bringing in, right? You want every ounce of their minds, on all the great stuff that they have inside of them in the film as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a collaboration. Yeah. You guys are all trying to work together. I mean, you guys are obviously, you're the puppeteers. You're like, okay, we got to have this here. You guys know exactly like the vision you want, but at the same time, you got these actors that are, they're coming up with their backstories, and try, like, how am I going to approach this scene right here? And then you got to go back and forth with those ideas. And if I'm sure there's been times, maybe, I don't know if you guys have dealt with it, there might be some times where, an idea doesn't work and that actor wants to keep on with that idea, but well,
it's interesting, because I think, they always say casting is like 75% of it or 80%, whatever it is, but it's definitely a high percentage. So it's like, when you cast, let's use Walden, for example. And it's like, if you cast Walton Goggins in a role, you probably cast him because he's going to be fucking amazing in that role, you think. So when you get him out there, and I mean, he gives you a lot of little variations. It's all grounded within the world, hopefully. And then he might even warn you, like he would with us. He'd say, all right, you guys feel like we got it? We're like, yeah, we got it. So, all right, well, let me just do one more where, let me take it up 10% and see if I can push it and still keep it in the world. We're like, all right, fuck it, go for it, man. He's like juggling chainsaws out there. He's going to try something really wild and see if he can make it still grounded enough to keep it in the film. And we're like, all right, man, fucking go for it. But that's the cool thing. It's like, he wants to try something, we're totally game, and there's going to be times where an actor's like, oh, yeah, I want to ride a fucking unicycle across the room. And you're like, okay, well, that doesn't quite work in the scene, man. I'm sorry, and you got to try to get you out of that. But,
yeah, and you're like, why do you want to ride a unicycle? Like, what is that motivation there? Like, what are we working for here?
but like with Walton, he would never get to that point. He's not like, drive a car through the window and see if we can make that work. He's doing such gentle nudges, and you're just like, okay, yeah, we're still in the world. Let's try to make that work. So you get those talented guys, they know what film they're in, and they're trying to stay there. That's
awesome. And then when it comes to like when you were filming the movie and you were kind of wondering, I mean, when did you guys film this movie? I'm assuming like last year. It was last year when you guys filmed it, or was it?
We filmed it this year. So we went into pre-production in November, and then we shot through March.
Oh wow! So right when the pandemic.
Literally, dude, you have no idea. Like we're talking like for the week, like right up to the last bit. They're like, we're gonna have to shut down. We're gonna have to shut down. We're gonna have to shut down. And then we finished one day before they shut every production down in Canada.
Wow.
The whole last week of shooting, they're like, we're going to shut down tomorrow. We're going to shut down tomorrow. And we're like, fuck, if they shut down tomorrow, we're going to be 4 days short. And then we get to the next day. They're like, we're probably going to shut down tomorrow. We're like, oh God, we're going to be 3 days short. And then finally we finished our last day. We're like, I hope they don't shut down midday here. Like, hopefully we get through this last day. And then we're like, whoo, we made it. And then like the next morning, as we're all kind of waking up, trying to, the production hangover you have of like burning it for how many weeks, 7 weeks or 5, 6 weeks or whatever. But but for us, it's like 4 months. Yeah. Right. And then they announced at like 10 a.m. They're like, so we're shutting all the productions down in Canada, entertainment business.
Holy shit. You guys lucked out, man.
Can't believe it.
Dude, and there was no going back. Like if they had shut us down, we would have had to figure. We were already like right on the bleeding edge of finishing the production.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if they had shut us down, like there would be no going back. We'd have to finish it. We would have had to figure out how to put together the movie with the footage that we had.
We'd be doing that close up with a hand in a parking lot somewhere, trying to piece the whole film together.
I know. Yeah. Just put everybody in front of a green screen somewhere in like your basement. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but so like when they were talking about releasing this, I mean, obviously, everybody wants to put it, of course, like out in the movie theaters, but with everything that happened, was streaming just like, was that always on the table, or was it just something that was like brought to the table because of the whole pandemic?
It didn't scare us. I mean, look at the idea was to have a grander theatrical honestly, like the most important thing for us is that, no one's dying trying to watch the movie. That's probably the most important thing. The second most important thing is that people get to see it. So we were just like, all right, look, I don't want anybody trying to go to a movie theater and like catching something that, ends somebody's life or has a horrific outcome. So we were just like, get fucking people to see it is all we're interested in. So do a theatrical and drive-ins and all that shit. And Saban, our distributor, was of the same ilk. They were just like, we're going to go as wide as we can with what the market is going to allow us to do. And I think it was like 290 theaters and drive-ins and something like that. But that's what was available to us, kind of, because once you get like Freaky and Let 'Em Go and stuff like that, those things have been booked for like 6 to 8 months out by studios, those positions, and we don't really have an access to those positions because we're not at Universal 8 months out. So with a smaller distributor, you get smaller windows, and we had for a pandemic run in the theater, we had a fucking hell of a run. We had 2 weeks and like 290 theaters, and I think we're still in theaters all the way through December in about 70 or 80 places.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so if it's a safe environment to go see the movie at the theatrical experience for you, like awesome.
Yeah, I mean, do it. I mean, that's what's crazy. I mean, 2021 is going to be insane. I mean, obviously, Warner Media a couple days ago announced that, hey, our big movies, I think they have 17 movies that are going to be coming out next year that are also going to just the same day are going to be released on HBO Max. And that's huge. That was big news that happened a couple days ago. It's like, everybody's wondering what the future of the movie industry is going to be like. I mean, I'm one of those people that I'm like, I used to go, I mean, I'm still jonesing for a fix. I haven't been to a movie theater since I had to literally drive an hour and a half to fucking San Diego just to watch Tenet when that came out, because everywhere else, nowhere. It's all closed. I have a theater that's like literally 2.5 minutes right around the corner that I frequent all the time. Every Thursday, new movie, I'm there. I'm going to pick a movie to watch. I'm there because that's just like, one of my things that I would always do is just go to the movies, whether by myself or not. And I wanted to see Tenet, of course. And the closest theater was in San Diego County. So I had to drive an hour and a half just to go see it. And now it's like, what's going to happen next year? I mean, it just seems like this shit's not like not loosening up or anything like that. And now that Warner Media is going, okay, we're just going to release, we got Wonder Woman 84 that's going to be coming out same day, but you can still watch in the movie theaters. How do you guys feel about like where things are heading when it comes to like streaming and, possibly like movie theater chains just kind of just like closing down?
Look, I think the one thing the pandemic is driving for us is like a real desire to get back out and intermingle with my fellow man.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss the shit out of people right now. Ian and I love people. We love the communal experience of movies. I think everybody's feeling that. I really do believe in my heart that as soon as we get this COVID under control, you're going to see boom time at the theaters. Yeah. Not only are you going to see studios releasing their back-to-back $200 million tent poles for a month and a half, but you're going to see the audience coming out in droves because we all miss that experience. We all want to get back out there and do that. So I think it's going to come back. I think this does reprogram some of the consumption methods. there probably should be a tighter window between theatrical and on demand, right? I mean, it just makes sense as far as your marketing dollars.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
that
I remember,
conversation is happening.
yeah, I remember like at first, like I think it was a couple months ago, Universal was talking about a 3-week window. Like it gets released in theaters and 3 weeks later it's on demand. And that was something. And now we got like same day, which, I mean, the thing that I like about it is the fact that, I mean, I'm a moviegoer. I'll see all of them out, and I want to see it on the biggest screen ever, especially the big tentpole movies. I want to see those on the biggest screen ever, and I want that sound to just just punch me right in the face. But I actually like the fact that I can come home and watch it right away. I like that aspect of it as well. That was like, wow, okay, like I could literally just go home and rewatch it again, lounging out on my couch or like the next morning or something like that. But I can understand the concerns. Like I just did a video before we went live tonight where it's like, AMC, the CEO, he is not too happy of what Warner Media is doing. And he's like, it sounds like there's going to be some, lawsuits. I don't know what's going to be happening. But it's good. Yeah, it's good. He says like he just made it sound like this is going to be war or something like that. I mean, we talk about streaming wars, when it comes to all the streaming services stuff, but I never thought about like, wow, these movie theater chains are probably going to go to war too, because they are also fighting to survive as well, which I could totally see it, because I mean, that's, like I said, it's like a sanctuary for me. Every time I go to the movies, I turn my phone literally on airplane mode. Don't bother me. I'm watching a movie. I'm in this cinematic experience, because when you're at home, I mean, yeah, you could get distracted very easily, when you're streaming something, but at the same time, there is that convenience. So, I mean, I guess there's going to be a little bit of adapting to that, I would say, but hopefully the movie theater experience doesn't go fully away, because I mean, that's just something that I love,
I feel like to a certain extent are, in certain places already risking their lives to go to the movie theater at times. And which, if you get a vaccine and everybody's kind of, if you get a vaccine, then it's like, okay, well, I think everything pretty much goes back to normal, besides wearing what Biden just say, masks for 100 days.
Yeah, I mean, and then there was like data too that, with the movie theaters that have been open around the world, like they haven't been like the super spreaders, as they call it, when they talk about movie theaters have not been super spreading, areas. So, I mean, long as when I went and saw Tenet, it was like, yeah, it wasn't a full theater. They space everybody out and you have to wear your mask. And it's like, okay, I'm perfectly okay with doing that. I can wear my mask as I'm watching the movie, whatever, I'm perfectly fine with that. So, stop closing down these movie theaters, open them up and just have those safety regulations. So then, we don't see like these big, huge buildings that were once movie theaters that are just abandoned now. And that's what I'm fearing is the movie theater experience is almost going to be like, they're almost going to be like theme parks now, where it's like you have to drive at half an hour just to find a screen. And it's going to have to be like an all day experience where it's like dining and everything's going to have to be like, a whole huge experience. And that's what I'm kind of worried about with everything that's happening, as much as I like the fact that I can actually watch a new movie right away on my TV.
I don't know what the research is on it, but I've always been curious of like, why don't the theaters just have a quicker turnaround? I mean, it's not like there's a shortness of content, right?
Especially when there's like a new blockbuster like every fucking weekend. Like you might as well.
Movies out of there in 2 or 3 weeks, and you move to the next cool, awesome thing you can watch in a theater, because I mean that's where movies make most of their money anyways. In the first couple of weeks, it's like get that couple of weeks, and like you can't replace that theatrical experience. People, if you're going to go watch a movie in a theater, you're going to go watch a movie in a theater, and if you were going to wait for it online, you're going to wait for it online. It's usually how people do it.
But I think, Dave, like you nailed it earlier, man. It's like when you go to see a movie in the theater, not only is it the premiere picture, the premiere sound. I mean, you can't replicate that in your house. You can't replicate a whole wall, at least not yet, as a screen in your house. And I think the biggest thing you said, though, was you put your phone on mute. There are no distractions. You're utterly committed to that experience.
Fuck yeah. And then you got all these strangers around you. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been to the movies, especially if it's a comedy. There's something about just watching a comedy with a group of people that are all cracking up at these certain moments and just like dying laughing, or when you go see one of these big movies, these big tentpole movies, your Star Wars, your Avengers, whatever the hell, and everybody's cheering and just it's like you're almost at a fucking rock concert. You don't get that experience at home. I mean, that's nope. Things. It's like when you go to that opening night, that's when all the diehard fans are going. They're going that opening night, that first showing. So, you see everybody just either dressed up or they got their fucking favorite shirt on or something like that. I mean, I love those experiences.
Yeah. It's there's an amazing energy in the air, and that absolutely translates to those moments and those. Almost everybody has that experience with a movie or two, at least in their lifetime, right? And you're like, oh, I remember when I watched this with whatever, there's always that like, oh man, you have such a reverence and nostalgia for that movie. It's like, no matter how old you are, when you're 80 years old, you're like, I remember back in, got to watch this, kids. It's a hell of a film, everybody's got kind of those movies.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, what Warner Media is doing. I mean, it sounds like they were just like, you know what, let's just try it like this for a year, see what happens. Who knows if that's going to be like the common thing? I mean, I'm sure some of the other streaming services are going to follow suit. Your Disney Plus or anything else. It's just going to be like, okay, should we do the same thing and see what happens? I'm kind of curious to see how they break down the analytics of it all. Because, I mean, even though when it came to Tenet and they were still trying to release it out in theaters, it was almost like an experiment. And it made like over 350 million worldwide, which is not that great for that movie. But It was during a pandemic, and you had two of the biggest markets closed, Los Angeles and New York. They were closed. I could only imagine. I mean, that movie probably would have made easily $1 billion if everything was normal. But like you were saying, Ian, was like people are going to crave just to go out, just to get out there. And I think if they're given the option, they're going to choose that over just sitting at home like they have been for the past fucking year. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
We were talking to one of our managers, and he was talking about just his fear of like it even affecting like that kind of mid-level, mini major studio that like if everything kind of goes to streamer. I mean, I think this is what the business is trying to weigh, right? It's like if the pandemic can put this much upheaval in the business, it's like what is the safest? Everyone wants the most risk averse, so it's like, well, streaming is the most risk averse because no matter what, it's always there. So he was just theorizing about, well, if it all kind of goes that direction, then theatrical is a novelty, and you're only putting certain movies in there, and it even limits what's going to go in there and how long it's going to be in there. And that part of it is frightening for sure.
It definitely is, but it's going to be curious to see what happens in the next year. I mean, it's starting off this Christmas with Wonder Woman 84. I would love to find an IMAX screen. I even think my mom was like, I'll go with you. I was like, let's do it. Let's go find it. Yeah. And then I could just watch it later that night or something like that. And just kind of like, it is kind of nice. But guys, this has been a treasure. And I'm glad you guys showed up. And you guys, everybody out there who's watching right now, please watch FATMAN. I love this poster, by the way. I love the old school of this poster. I mean, you guys really did. When I saw the poster, I was like, okay, this is something special because it's very old school. I'm sure you guys were like, okay, we got to do something where it has that border and the way it's designed. And I absolutely love it.
Absolutely. I mean, a very talented friend of ours, we had a long discussion with him about like what we were after with the aesthetic. And I mean, he did the small town crime posters as well. And he's just a super talented guy and just really understands decades and genres and aesthetic and getting a feel. And I mean, I can't say enough about it. We're super happy with especially this poster. This one's amazing.
Oh yeah, I got to get
the foreign ones that I'm not too excited about, but this is the one.
No, this one's the best one right here. When I saw this, I'm like,
they're gonna do what they're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. But but I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. And like I said, guys, right now you can currently watch FATMAN on demand. I think it's you could probably watch it through Amazon. I think I forgot.
Amazon, iTunes, Fandango.
Yeah, all the major on-demand providers should have it.
Yeah,
all the major on-demand providers right there, and hopefully we get a sequel because I want to see more. I definitely want to see more. Like
we'd be super excited to expand it. We've got a lot of ideas. Like I said,
I'm telling you, there's a cinematic universe right here that I'm just like, come on, we could see it happen.
Like what we have some crazy cool ideas for Mrs. Claus, to go off in some directions as well. And we're just what medium is that? I don't know, but what would support those stories? But I think there's for us there's some wonderful cool stories about her as well.
So many good ideas. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me tonight, and I'll bid you adieu. And hopefully, hey, okay. So the only thing I ask is when FATMAN 2 is going to be announced, you guys come back on the Vodka stream and we announce it and we talk about it, and we celebrate it, opening up a new bottle of vodka. And we could just fucking do it right there. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. And hey, thank you,
Dave. I can't promise that you'll be the first, but let's definitely do that, brother.
I was really trying, man.
You're gonna be right up there, Dave. Right near the top, man. Top 5.
Okay, well, hey, as long as I'm like within the week, because I do it on Friday. If you announce it on Tuesday, just show up. I'll hit you up and be like, hey, come on the Vodka stream on Friday, and we'll talk about what's going to happen with FATMAN 2 or FATMAN Returns, whatever it is.
FATMAN Returns. I like it. We'll go right off the back of Nolan.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
I just want to thank Hubs, Viper, Will Diesel, 1000 guys. Thanks for guys and gals. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you hanging out and commenting. Some of those were pretty funny to read as my eyes were darting back and forth and trying to.
I know. I saw your eyes going. I'm like, oh, he's reading the live chat. Hopefully, there's not something bad. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Come on.
Oh, no, it's been good. No, it's been good. The live chat's been good. You guys got a lot of support. A lot of people are really enjoying your movie. I mean, I've been seeing that all over Twitter. And like I said, I put it on and I was like, okay, I saw the trailer, saw the poster. This has got to be good. And sure enough, like I said, it was just refreshing. It was refreshing how, it's just unique. And you guys, like I said, the biggest thing was just the fact that this world knows that Santa exists. That was like the biggest grab for me. I'm like, good job. But all right, guys, I appreciate you guys coming in, Ian. And we got the Nelms brothers here. And like I said, guys, go watch their movie. Please support it so we can get a sequel. And
Dave, thank you so much, brother. It means a mountain, brother. And thank you to everyone.
Oh, no problem, guys. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, you guys have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right, guys, the Nelms brothers right there. There we go. Man, that was a great conversation, man. Those guys are cool. Like I said, I hope they do come back when they do announce the full-on trailer or the sequel to that, man. Please. Hopefully they do come back. Is that the right? Yep, there we go. All right, let's get the panel in here. Normally when I have a featured guest or the special guest, I usually bring on the panel, but I figured because usually the featured guest is within the nerdyism. I just wanted to keep the interview just strictly them. And, we'll hopefully we'll see if any of the dudes, any of the guys are going to be joining right now. I'm sending them the links right now, guys. See if they join. So anybody else? I think that's it. Nah. Okay. So I think we're good. All right. But yeah, there we go. All right. It's cool. So we do, all right. So we definitely got that. Let's see. Let me go ahead and set this up. And join the stream. I'm telling you. They really need to expand that universe. Man. I'm telling you. I want to see more. I definitely want to see more of what they were establishing there. I was really pleasantly surprised. Such a refreshing, unique Christmas movie, especially that deals with Santa Claus. All right, we got Mr. Stephen Colbert. What's up, buddy?
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
What the fuck? I'm baffled right now. I could see your hair.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That is.
I couldn't find my. Actually, no. I did find it, but I wasn't wearing it earlier today, And then I don't know. I could tell you the whole story, but it involves me looking for a beanie and not finding it, and then finding it. So
I think you just told the whole story right there.
The
Yeah.
thrilling character arc, yeah.
Oh my god! I mean, I'm sure you can make it intense, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, there's only so many stories out there, right? Man loses a hat, man finds a hat, man goes on a journey to find a hat, right? So it falls right into that. Yeah,
it all depends on the
gamut.
score, though. If you have a good score, it could really, sound like a really great story. But
right.
But yeah. Oh shit! I totally just removed you. I don't know.
No.
Wow.
It's like, enough hat talk.
I know. I'm like, nah.
Especially if you can get Mel Gibson to play the guy looking for the hat, like that'd be a great.
Dude, have you watched FATMAN?
I have not. I was mad. I was gonna try to watch it earlier, and it's been busy.
It's fine. That's kind of why I was like, you know what? All right, I'll just interview them, and then we interviewed for about an hour and a half, and then I was like, all right, when the panel comes in, I'll just kick them out.
Yeah, no, it was a great interview, and I was already interested in the movie. Like the trailer sold me on it, but hearing them talk about it even more. It sounds like they have like almost like a John Wick style like mythology, like they're definitely with the Santa Claus stuff. Like, and I love it when they do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I was telling them, it was like the biggest thing that I was like that I took from it. It was like because most movies that revolve around Santa Claus is you always have that subplot of disbelievers. In this world that they crafted is like everybody just knows that there is a Santa Claus. No matter how old you are, there's a Santa Claus, and there's no anything.
Yeah, and it's not, to me, it's not just that decision that fascinates me, but that's like a domino of decisions that of things that affects, and that kind of world building is just fascinating to explore. Of like, okay, so not just does everyone know Santa Claus exists, but then there's so many other things that are just kind of inherent with that would be just so cool to see, especially like the more you were talking about like sequels and stuff. I was like, man, I haven't seen the first one yet, but the idea of like a shared universe is tantalizing.
Dude, I mean, they totally could. I mean, like I said, I can't wait till you see it, just to see how grounded it actually is. I mean, I was like wondering, I'm like, okay, so how are they going to treat this? Like when he does go out on his one night of big time work, how do they treat that? And it's so fucking like quick and grounded that you're like, okay, that totally makes sense with this Mel Gibson Santa Claus. And then I'm like, is there going to be a workshop with elves? Oh, there is. Oh, and they make it work. Oh, they do make it work. It's not all, colorful and just like, oh my God, there's tinsel and, gingerbread houses everywhere and blah, blah, blah. It's just like and they really just grounded it like it's a fucking business. And the fact that, the plot where, half the kids are pieces of shit, so the workshop is not making as much toys as they usually do, so he has to take on this other contract, and I'm like, and we even talked about that scene. There's like a certain scene where Mel Gibson was like, I guess they really connected on how they wanted to approach that scene, where it's comedic but also like it's just a very good scene. And then you got Walton Goggins, which he's just one of those guys. Yeah. Like I said, he just shows up and you're like, I like Walton Goggins. He's always good. Even though the movie sucks, I like Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we got Mr. Quiswong Swenson.
Hey.
I love the fact that you were pouring right now. You got to show that bottle. You got to show that bottle, sir, because I know you got some of the good stuff there. Look at that.
Looked online and it was like, this is like I think it's like a $300 to $400 bottle.
Yes, you got the good stuff tonight, man. I was like,
yeah,
look at you.
Yeah, and then the other one is also Scotch.
So you're drinking Scotch tonight. I mean, we're not gonna have. Yeah, see, we're not gonna have Scotch tonight, sadly, but
I know. I was actually wondering. I want Scott's opinion on it.
I know. Sadly,
Brian McClellan's opinion on this.
Sadly, it's he made it be known that he's got an early basketball game for his son tomorrow, so he wasn't going to make it tonight. So we don't get to hear that sexy voice of his, sadly. But it's okay. We'll make do without him. Oh, that's got to be delicious. That's just
smooth.
Yeah, I'm sure that is.
Yeah.
So, have you seen FATMAN?
No, I haven't. I wanted to see FATMAN.
Yeah, you guys got to watch it.
I wanted to see. I remember when that trailer came out, I thought it was a parody.
It
I
does
thought
seem
someone
like
did a fan film, and like, that's a pretty good fan. Oh, it's a real movie? No.
You guys know the I was hoping Dave would bring up the Weird Al song, "The Night Santa Went Crazy."
Oh, damn.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, not that it's exactly the same, but just the idea of like Santa Claus and guns and stuff. I was gonna say the other thing is, like story stuff and all that aside, it makes me more excited to see a movie like that. And hearing guys like that talk about it, and just they were really genuine, cool dudes who like. I just love people who make movies because they love it and they're like passionate about it, and in a very like. They're very pragmatic and business minded, and I loved hearing them talk about like the process of building up their
years. I mean,
their sort of portfolio and kind of working and like that stuff is all fascinating. But just to know that they're like they literally do what's the room throwing a football while they write a script thing like
oh yeah I know what you're talking about.
The Tommy Wiseau throwing it. But I mean, I thought that's awesome that they just like that the kind of story jamming and stuff, and like that always makes me enjoy the movies like that even more, knowing that it's not just a I don't know, not that that's something like that would ever be like a shameless cash grab, but just that it's two dudes that like clearly love cinema, and we're so passionate about like picking Mel's brain about. Like I think the first thing he mentioned was Apocalypto when he was listing the things they had questions about, and I was like, yes, because like that movie doesn't get talked about often enough. That movie is insane.
It does not, and yeah, that movie is absolutely insane. I mean, the fact that when he mentioned picking the brain of Mel, he didn't even mention Lethal Weapon. I was the one that mentioned Lethal Weapon. He talked about Hacksaw Ridge and I forgot what the other one that he mentioned too. He might have mentioned Braveheart, probably. I think he mentioned Braveheart as well. But it's just, picking his brains. And then, of course, somebody in the chat was like, "Oh, did you guys talk about Passion 2?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we heard about it. We know what they couldn't disclose exactly what Mel told him, but the fact that Mel was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. Jim Caviezel's down. And we're gonna do a Passion of the Christ. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see because, like I said, like I brought up, it's like when you pitch that first film. I mean, I just wonder. I want to be a fly on the wall when it comes to Mel pitching that fucking first film.
Well, and it's such a curious question of like a sequel to that I've just always been fascinated by is that it's a different genre.
Yeah, it's not even together.
Like, provided you take the same like because his thing with the first was like this ultra realistic, like the language was authentic.
Hey, man.
Hey,
what's up, buddy?
What's going on?
Hey.
But yeah, like language was authentic, and obviously he was. I don't know. I think some people said he may have gone a little bit overboard on the blood, but from as far as I understand it, there was a dedication to realism with all that. And so if he goes for that kind of same, here's what the text says, here's how that would be realistically, like that the 40 days from like that after he rises to rising, like he ascends into heaven after like 40 days, he's just like going around like blowing people's minds with miracles, and then he's like, anyway, peace out. And so like but whenever people talk about it, they're like, oh, it's this epic gonna blow your mind thing, and it's like, well, how do you, I'm not saying that's exactly a boring story, but the idea of like if you take that same sense of realism, some people would say that's a boring story. So how do you turn that into like this epic thing people are talking about?
I'm very curious.
What does the sequel sounds like though? Because he ended when he rose from the dead.
Yeah, you see him.
That's what I'm saying. So if they follow the Bible like as like religiously as they did in the first movie, there's like 40 days there where he's just like going around proving to people that he's alive, doing miracles and teaching and stuff. But like he doesn't get put on a cross again. Like there's no like there's not that same like intense action. I mean, if they go past it and do like the and they do like the like Pentecost or something, that's some crazy stuff that would be crazy to see.
Yeah.
Like flames over people's heads and speaking in tongues and more people performing miracle. Like they did, like do like an Avengers movie with the disciples.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, but if they stick just with Jesus, I don't know. Like I'm never gonna say Jesus is boring, but like that's totally different from like the intensity that you get from the first one. There's not that same kind of drama. So I'm fascinated to know how they kind of get something epic out of that.
I'm just surprised Jim Caviezel wants to actually do it again. Didn't he get like struck by lightning?
He
twice?
did.
Really?
Not once, once, but fucking twice. Filming the first one. Yes. Yeah. That just tells you something right there. That's a little creepy. The fact that
Everybody's a fucking critic.
I mean, my God. I mean, even
you know who was criticizing that movie?
Like, really, you're gonna make this movie? Well, have some of that.
Well, he hasn't done anything since like Person of Interest. I don't even know if Person of Interest is still going on, right?
I don't know. Jim Caviezel? Yeah. Is that how you say his name?
He's one of those guys that like
shows up,
don't get a lot of work, and you can't tell if it's because they're like blacklisted or if it's because he's not without talent, but dudes like him tend to like their participation slows down, and I can never tell if it's them like, no, I don't want to work with you Hollywood types, or if there's a something else going on.
But I mean, like
or something like that.
The what? Frequency. That's the best. That's my favorite movie that he's in. Movie Frequency that's an awesome movie. If anybody hasn't seen Frequency, watch that movie. Yeah. Did you say Christian Slater? What did you say?
No, I said Frequency.
Oh, I thought you said Christian Slater. I'm like,
no, it's just my accent.
No, oh, okay. I was like, no, he was not. That was Dennis Quaid. That was his dad.
Dennis Quaid.
I was about to school you, Ben. No, but yeah, it's a great, kind of time travel-ish movie, a unique time travel. Well, it's not really even time travel. It's just, it's about the what do they call the Northern Lights that just like, tap into this fucking frequency, that where you can talk to his dad in the past, and then they're trying to, it's a fucking fantastic movie. But anyways, guys, did anything happen this week?
No, nothing major.
Crazy or what? What are we talking about? Yeah, did something happen? No, but, obviously something happened. So I'm kind of wow. I just looking on Twitter. Apparently there was an earthquake in California. I didn't feel it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what? I just watched Escape from LA, and the plot of Escape from LA starts off with the fact that LA had a massive earthquake and it broke off to the sea. I'm just waiting for that to happen because LA's a shithole. Anyways, no, but yeah. What are you guys' thoughts about how Warner Media just decided to change the game? We knew it was coming, but the fact that it's there, what do you think, Chris? What were your thoughts?
HBO Max subscription plan is kind of like that AMC plan where you pay for so much, you'll get movies like that every month. That's exactly what we're getting, and it's right to your TV. And I'm like, holy crap! And like you Dave, you mentioned that what happened to Mulan, and now went from PVOD to straight to free. And I'm like, they're like, we better do something.
Well, I mean, it was planned. I know. I remember they did say that. But I just wanted to make the joke because just the fact it almost seemed like when they were planning this, Warner Media and HBO Max are like, we got to do it a day before Mulan is free on Disney Plus. It almost seemed like it was like that. It probably wasn't. I think it's just probably a terrible coincidence, but I just was like, the joke of the fact that yesterday we get this crazy news that basically just changed the movie industry. And then today Disney Plus is like, hey, you can watch Mulan for free if you want. Funny.
Well, and that was already known.
Yeah, it was already known. I just
thinking about it worked out. Thinking about the notion that was like planned, like they did it intentionally, knowing that it was going to be in the news. I like that. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I love the there's humor in them doing that.
Yeah. I remember we had a conversation here in the Vodka stream where we were discussing how they move all these movies to 2022. Yeah. And I remember asking at that time, those movies getting pushed back was part of the changes that they were gonna do with the streaming. Were they preparing for this? And that's how I felt back then, and now that was actually exactly what it happened. They just moved all those movies back to 2022, so AMC couldn't say anything about, or any movie chain can say something about their these movies are supposed to come out here this year. You cannot put it on the streaming. But now by pushing them like 2 years ahead, and then say, you know what, never mind, and we're gonna put it on the streaming, it's just like a big middle finger to everyone. And they couldn't pick a better time to do this. They couldn't wait. They couldn't do this 2 years ago, and they couldn't do this 3 years from now. So let's say that they hypothetically they wait 3 years for the pandemic to be over. The movie theaters are not going to allow them to do this, or they could play hardball.
If they waited 3 years, what that would have been realistically is them just waiting until the movie theaters were no longer around to complain about it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complication there, but like that's kind of the bottom line that I think a lot of people aren't considering is it's being weighed as if it's like, oh, on one hand, you could have gone back to the movies as normal in 2021 and all of these movies would have made $1 billion. No. On the other hand, you're putting them all on streaming. It's like that is a false dichotomy.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that we are not comparing them all going on HBO Max same day versus what they would have made because they wouldn't have. Yeah, they would have made more than they did in, they would have in 2020. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we're still talking like, I don't know, 50%. I would be surprised if it was like 50% of the box office. Like what they would have made in 2019, they'll make half of that in 2021. I think 2022 maybe things will be back more, but like there is not a eager market waiting to go see, especially something like I don't know, I don't want to throw Godzilla versus Kong under the bus because I really love it, but you look at how these other MonsterVerse movies are doing, right, and it's not a sure thing. Sorry, Chris. No. And so like you look at what happened to MonsterVerse, and like what you want to put the sequel to MonsterVerse out into the post-pandemic box office when it could be an HBO Max it's not exclusive, but when it could be HBO Max same day. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's and especially when like Netflix revenue in 2019 was more than Disney's theatrical box office revenue, and that was the year that Disney, I believe, they set the all-time box office record from a single studio. It was like $13 billion or something like that. And Netflix revenue was $20 billion. Now they're like 3 times bigger than Disney Plus, but the point is these streaming services are the bread and butter of the future of this industry, and so like Warner Media wanted to do that anyway. The pandemic kind of just made it happen sooner. And so like, no, they're not going to get the box office they want from that, but you're going to get more, if you get someone that subscribes for a year, you're going to get more total dollars from them than you would have if they, the average person doesn't go to the movies 12 times a year, but if they subscribe to HBO Max for 12 months, they're paying you more times. Also, average ticket prices in the United States are $10, so that's a 50% increase in revenue per person. And Warner Media keeps all that money; they're not splitting it. Like they're not like letting distributors take 40% of it or whatever they're taking. And like I said, these movies were gonna not make what they should have in theaters anyway. And when you're talking about streaming, as I always mention, like with Netflix, like Netflix is $11 billion in debt from making Adam Sandler movies so that they can have a back catalog of movies to attract subscribers. And like in the streaming wars, there is value in that. So we're not even talking like, yes, these movies will be monetized now, possibly better than they would have been, but also they don't have to be. This is a debt decision for the sake of growing the platform for their future revenue model when the box office is, 20% of what it has been historic. I mean, 2017 was the lowest theater attendance in like 25 years or something. Like we're not exactly talking about like even in a good year, we're not talking about like peak box office revenue. So I don't know. I mean, there are more nuances than that, but I think that it was necessary, and I think that people are going to use the wrong metrics to compare everything. They're going to say, what could this have made in theaters, when they're not considering, like, if HBO Max if they can grow their subscribers if they can double their subscriber base, they've got like 36 million now, I think. If they can grow to like 70 million in the next year, which I admit is a stretch, but like if you compare that to like the number of people that see these movies domestically, it's not really that drastic. And I think it's a pretty, like, for example, every single person you've ever heard say, oh, I'm going to wait for that on streaming, they're now a day one customer.
Yeah.
Right. Along with the people who are already day one customers. And so if you can get all those people to subscribe to HBO Max for a year, you're averaging $1 billion per all of these releases that they're putting in theaters. And that include, I mean, I'm saying average, that includes Tom and Jerry, that includes like all these things that weren't ever $1 billion contenders. So
when the service was released on March, they secured $5 billion for the next 5 years. And if you add all these movies that they already throw into the mix, they don't accumulate $1 billion worth of product. So they already expend was what, eight months ago, roughly. So if you're gonna go do the math, 1 billion a year, they already already spend what they were supposed to spend for this first year, and at the same time they're getting like this quality product, because they could have just waited out and put out these little TV shows that they currently do, which they're pretty good, by the way, but they weren't getting those tentpole movies. The only movie that was talked about was the Zack Snyder's Justice League. All of a sudden, Wonder Woman's been thrown into the mix, and now the entire slate is coming thrown into the mix.
It's going to be interesting to see, like, when they break it down, because I mean, we can't forget that these movies are still going to be released in the theaters, you know. And
right.
And I'm really hoping, and even when I was talking to the Nelms brothers, you know, we're all really hoping that there's still going to be a pretty good, significant showing from the audience in these movie theaters, because they just want to get the fuck out of their house. You know, get the fuck. I'm so tired of like watching shit on my couch. I just want to go somewhere. I don't care if I have to wear a hazmat goddamn suit just to go watch it. You know, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. And I'm kind of curious to see like this experiment of, you know, we're gonna find it out in a couple of weeks with Wonder Woman. It's like, how much is it gonna make, you know, in the box office, and how much, or how are they gonna look at it when the analytics when it comes to streaming?
And that's one movie that was
such a pain in the ass already, because everyone's
even you probably it's gonna be a pain.
It's gonna be such a pain in the ass because people are gonna be comparing like. First of all, they're going to be projecting, here's what it should have made in theaters. It should have made $1 billion in theaters, and then but it only made, you know, $10 million in the at the box office, and then they're going to say like, how many subscribers did it bring to HBO Max? They're going to do all this back of the napkin math, and they're going to be like, that translates into $500 million in a theatrical run, and it's like that. None of that math matters. Like you can't do the math that way, and it's going. Oh man, it's gonna drive me crazy. But I do think it's really interesting though that like the people were already staying home to watch streaming content instead of going to the theaters, because streaming service, you can binge something new every week. There's pretty good blockbusters coming out frequently. The cost of building a home theater is getting cheaper and cheaper, and as probably everyone here is familiar with, except Dave, it's, if you have kids, it is like $70 to go see a movie.
Well, that was my thing. That was my argument when, you know, like, as much as I don't really like the premium thing that Disney was doing, but I was at the same time going, well, if you actually were to take in, like, if you were to take in the cost it would go to a movie theater, you'd probably be paying more than that fucking $30 premium.
Yeah.
To your point, Steven, because you were gonna say something about going to the movies with your kids, and that's something that you have to take into consideration when these movies comes out. Like, for instance, Marvel had this stupid policy of putting a blockbuster every fucking month, and in each of those movies, they suck the air out of it, the fucking room. Nothing else makes money. So if I go in with my wife and my kids and I'm spending like $150, I'm not going back there to see Bob's Burger, the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So anything
even
that
if
has
you
a
decide to
smaller
leave your
budget
kids,
was you were
I
going
was
to
gonna
say?
say, even if you decide to like not take your kids to the movie, like even if you're gonna go like take your wife, and like leave your kids at home, you're talking about depending on where you are. I mean, you've got a couple
40.
hours, 3 hours probably minimum of babysitter. Like that gets expensive too.
Yes, it does.
And then you know, or you can navigate the like, hey, why don't you stay home with the kids and I'll go to a movie? Like nobody like, no, I'll pay the $70. Like that's gonna be right. Like
I mean,
and so this turns all those people who are like currently staying home, like if you're already staying home because theaters are too expensive and you have a home theater and you'd rather watch what was like the what was that Hemsworth movie? It doesn't matter. But Extraction. But yeah, so you're gonna watch something like that on Friday instead of going to the theaters because it's a new action movie with a big star. You can watch it on the big screen at your home theater for no extra charge. Don't have to pay for babysitters, etc. And then someone tells you like, oh hey, instead of seeing that, you can see a movie that was made to be seen in a movie theater, with even more stars than Extraction. And it's just the cost of another streaming service. By the way, that the HBO Max's back catalog is way better than just about anybody else's also. And so the big thing that they've been lacking, like compared to like Netflix or whatever, is the new content. And so this not only gives them a new content, this gives them the best new content. That gives them content that is like imagine if all of a sudden like he was on before we got on the show, they were talking about how the DVD market got decimated.
Yeah.
Imagine how much that DVD market would have been, like the straight to DVD market would have been decimated. Like not just the market itself, but imagine if the response to the DVD market being decimated was to send theatrical films to DVD day of release. So the market is already suppressed, and then you flood it with brand new movies that are also in theaters. What happens to that stuff that was engineered to be seen via like the small budget stuff that is that was made to be
directed
rental or whatever? It's just gone. Like you just destroy that market. It's gone because you're leveraging. I'd be curious about what the total budgets of these movies are, but I mean, I bet we're talking like several $1 billion in investment that would have gone to theaters is now going into HBO Max, and the average content quality is way higher than like anything else that's streaming exclusive.
One thing that was
exclusivo. Sorry. I bring that guy out, of course. Sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
I've seen this story before, and it's not a good one because I like everybody here. I enjoy going to the movies. I mean, I bought my Wonder Woman tickets because I want to see it on the movie screen.
Lucky.
But I'm sorry.
Dude, I can't fucking yeah.
But when I was a little kid, you guys know, well, probably you don't. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I lived in this little town. There was 2 movie theaters. We didn't have cable. And those 2 movie theaters were the shit to do every weekend. When cable came, those 2 movie theaters shut down.
Dang.
So you see what I'm saying? Like this is what's gonna repeat. I don't want cinemas to die, but this is gonna become this move by Warner Media, AT&T, has viscerated their notion that we're gonna get the movie theater experience like we used to know.
Well, like
right. Well, but the notion that was going to survive even without COVID is a little misplaced, I think. Also,
true. That's true.
Now, obviously, it would have lasted a lot longer, but
it's accelerated the process.
In a way, I don't want to go as far as to say this, but I think in a way it could be even said that COVID might be the long-term saving grace of the theater industry in some way, in that it is forcing them to make drastic adaptations now instead of kind of continuing to see lower and lower attendance for another decade until all of a sudden it's too late
dies.
and everyone has built a home theater and is seeing streaming stuff. And then now they can't compete anymore. Whereas now they're like, okay, no, we need to make changes now to make it safer and more attractive for people. And also we need to scale differently. We can't engineer ourselves assuming, billion-dollar movies hitting the box office every week. So how do we make that revenue possible? Well, theaters are going to like group events more, and they're saying book a screen to watch anything with you and your friends, and they're doing, and they're going to recliners to which is cutting the theater size down, and they're doing all sorts of stuff like that to say, okay, we're going to restructure our business model to allow us to survive with lower revenue. Whereas before it was like, no, we're going to have 150 people in each screen, and we're going to all this stuff that's like, now it's just not, it's not practical. It's like if you own a Lamborghini and then like you move to the into the city and you're like, okay, well, I'm not parking this on the street and I'm not driving this in traffic.
Stuck in traffic,
right? You trade it in for a Jetta and and then you're great, right? Your car payment's lower, your gas mileage is better, like everything is better, but like you have to make that. You have to make that transition, and theaters weren't, and it was causing them to shrink. And now, in a tragic way, they're kind of forced to make that decision ahead of time. And HBO is kind of pushing their hand too, but but they're also like saving their own skins here, because you look at this. If you look at content as like inventory, and this is like what they're selling. Literally, they took a year of inventory and just like put it on the shelf. It eliminates their cash flow. Businesses don't go bankrupt because they don't turn a profit. Look at Netflix; they're billions and billions of dollars in debt and growing. You don't have to make a profit to be a successful business. You have to have cash flow to have a successful business. And like the majority of businesses go out of like small businesses or any size go out of business in the first 5 years, and they have to fold. And it's not because of profit issues. It's because of cash flow issues. And when you just turn it off and then you're like, okay, just hang out, just, sit tight and people go to movies again eventually. No, that's not going to happen. And, when you're Warner Media and you don't have a booming streaming service in place already, it just vanishes. Your revenue is gone.
That's the point I brought up today. It was with the whole AMC, AMC's pissed again, I mean, it's not the first time they're pissed. When Universal was talking about, when they were talking about the 3-week thing, AMC got pissed, and it's just like, it just seems like every company is just they're just looking out for themselves. I mean, Warner Media is going, hey, we need an alternative. This is what it is, and there's going to be probably Disney Plus. Who knows? They're probably going to follow suit. It's only a matter of time before they follow suit.
All competition will have to.
And then I even brought up the point too. It's like, why are you getting pissed off at mainly Warner Media? You should probably be getting pissed off about these politicians that keep your fucking doors shut. Like in the big markets. I mean, you got California. I mean, there's data out there that shows that movie theaters aren't super spreaders. They're not these places that you're gonna go in there and you're gonna fucking get sick. There's been studies over this. I mean, there's been so many studies about so many things over this time that we've been in this thing that nobody's wanting to pay attention to. It seems. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. I don't know if there's narratives out there, agendas, or whatever the fuck. But I'm almost like, okay, AMC, yeah, I can understand you're pissed off at Warner Media, but you should be more pissed off mainly at the people that are keeping your doors shut. I don't know. That's
Well, and very little of this, I mean, avoid getting too political about everything because it's all complicated, but very little of the actions being taken are science-based, I think, as they would call it. Some of them are, but some of them, like for example, movie theaters, it's all the perception of like what people perceive to be science-based, because you need to get, as like you are a governor and you're put in charge of a state, and you're not only told protect people's lives, but you're also told make people feel safe, right? And so you could close down all the places that science says to close down, and people would actually be safe, but you've still got people that are complaining or upset or feel unsafe because theaters are open and the perception, we could bang that drum all day that say theaters aren't super spreaders, but the notion of people packing into a room has people thinking like that's why people aren't going even to the theaters that are open. And so there's a political element to it as well. Of it's not just about close the places that are actually spreading, but make people close places that are going to make people feel like you're doing a good job as a leader, because you're going to be evaluated based on how strictly did you react. And let's say the numbers for your state are going up, and it's not the fault of theaters, but if you left theaters open, it's going to look like you were soft on COVID and responsible for people dying. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to say I empathize with them, because I think but it's a difficult position to be in. If you're said you're responsible for making these people feel safe, and then
I was amazed at how this news came out, like how they planned this whole thing, or I don't know what plan, but like how they said, okay, Wonder Woman 84 is the only one we're going to do this. We're going to try it out. It didn't even come out yet. And then the next thing, instead of saying the next movie will be, they just went up and said a whole year. And they didn't even tell the production companies. They didn't tell Legendary. They didn't tell all these.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't even tell AMC. Like, I was like,
a feeling that this is the type of news that if it started to get out, like, for example, if you noticed like the coverage that happened after the fact, they were interviewing like the trades were giving sources that were like filmmakers and their reaction, and theater owners and their reaction. And if something like this had been in the works like for a long time and they decided to negotiate stuff beforehand, imagine the kind of leaks that would come out via the trades of people talking about Warner's plans and like the PR damage. Like, on one hand, you have the ability to come out and shock everyone and say, boom, everything is the same day and date. You control the narrative, right? Yep. But if you don't do that, then you let other people set the narrative for you, and you're going to get interviews with anonymous directors and whoever that are like, oh, they're
complaining,
they're killing theaters and they have no regard for directors and they're whatever. And like, I don't know, like, you're damned if you do it and you're damned if you don't. But the only way to make this happen without insane leaks and all sorts of crazy politicking of executives who are losing back end points from residuals over this and stuff like that. Like, they were going to go to war over the press if this wasn't done swiftly and like ripping off.
And
it
would show your hand to the competition too, because you don't want the competition to win and like what you
and arguably you could have given, like, I don't know, I don't want to be too aggressive with my legal assumptions here, but like hypothetically, could maybe like theater owners could press a suit and claim like antitrust or not antitrust, but like if you look at like the supply, like HBO Max is cutting off access of their inventory, not cutting off, but reducing access of their inventory to theaters in order to give preferential treatment to their distribution service, right? That in other contexts that could be considered like you're using, it's like almost monopolistic, but it's not. I don't know. I don't know enough about the business law to say it.
If it's your own product, though, how can it be? How can it be if it's your own product?
I don't know exactly what the law says. I always make my assumptions kind of based on what I know case precedent is. And so the biggest one that I always think of is like when like Microsoft got screwed over. It was like with Windows 8.
Yeah,
they were putting in 2000.
And when they were putting IE on every iOS.
Exactly. They were bundling because the whole point, the browser was designed around working hand in hand. It was like, I mean, it's really smart in 2020 looking back. It was like the thing to do at the time, right? Yeah. But the act of force of taking their own product and baking it into another one of their products, was it Netscape?
Yeah, Netscape went under because they were pushing.
Yeah, and so the courts intervened and said, no, you can't bundle or you can't bake Internet Explorer into Windows, and it like broke Windows. Or was it Windows ME? Is that what it was? It broke Windows ME, and everyone knows Windows ME sucked. That's why. That's why Windows ME sucks and Internet Explorer sucked, is because they were supposed to be the same product, but because it hurt like Netscape, they claimed that it was it monopolistic? Is that what it was?
Yeah, but they never recouped after that anyway.
Yeah, I mean Microsoft made out fine, but but I look at like that kind of case precedent and I wonder, okay, so what happens then when Warner Media says, no, we're going to put this stuff to HBO Max first, and that's going to negatively affect theaters, which is like when theaters go down, people are still going to go to people are, the content, people aren't going to stop watching stuff, right? And so you are favoring HBO Max with the content availability at the expense of theaters. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the law. I just know that, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see lawsuits in this arena.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you made about.
Yeah, I'm curious about the actual content creators who want that theatrical, like Christopher Nolan. I know that was cited in one of the articles. Now, he didn't, I don't think he said anything, but they mentioned that he could walk away from Warner Media to go to another company to make movies from there if he wasn't notified and talked about this. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder how much,
where he's gonna go.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Where is he gonna go? To Disney? They're not gonna give him the same liberties that he takes with his movies.
No, but I think what I saw, and I think has some good merit, is like Nolan has less clout than he did before Tenet, but he does have enough clout to maybe craft his own agreement with Warner Brothers that, like, everybody has to get their stuff sent to streaming except for him.
But you know what? But it's weird how, like, he was kind of like tempted. He was like teeter-tottering with the whole Fortnite thing. Remember, he was showing like the trailer, with Fortnite and blah, blah, blah. It was like, he was almost kind of like, okay, let me kind of like dip my toe into this pool of like whatever this online shit is. And I mean, I remember when I was hearing about, like, oh yeah, you could watch the trailer for Tenet on Fortnite. And I was like, what the fuck is that? That's random, but it seemed like Nolan was kind of going, well, let me just kind of dip my toe into this and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I'm very team Nolan in so many ways. I love film and I love the theatrical experience. But I don't know if I would be as hard line as him on that. And I think that maybe is he polishing the deck rails on the Titanic, and maybe his efforts would be better put into like furthering home cinema tech, like make movies that make people want to build home theaters, right? Or I don't know. I mean, it would be. God, I get it. Like, how can you turn your back on the existence of IMAX theaters, right? How can you not dedicate? Like, if you're him, how can you not dedicate your career to making sure they have the customers to stay open?
IMAX theaters are going to be like, they're going to be like amusement parks now. It's like,
like
all these small theaters, I mean, there's a small theater that I have. It's like a Regal, or I think it's a Regal or something like that. That thing is not going to, who knows what's going to happen with that. And then I got the Harkins right there. I mean, there's no IMAX in my town. And I'm like, okay, these movie theaters might not survive this, but anything that has an IMAX theater, they probably will survive because it's an attraction. It's something that people would actually drive to and spend the money for just to get that full on huge experience. But they're going to have to up their game too with, like, gourmet food, quality food that they could serve you,
wine and beer,
drinks. Yes, I mean that's one of the things too. I mean, obviously, when we were talking at the beginning, I mean, I'm not in you guys, with you guys when you have to take the family to a movie theater, it's going to cost you like $70-$80 because you're paying for the little ones. I'm just like, when I go to the Harkins that serves beer, I'm like, that's $30 right there just for me, for the movie ticket and 2 beers, quality beers too, by the way. But I also find it funny, and I brought it up in one of my videos too, is the fact that, any movie theater that serves alcohol or beer, that's a separate business. So, like, I could literally, buy a beer that's cheaper than a fucking, large bag of popcorn, because the concessions are so goddamn high, and it makes me wonder too. It's like, because
that's how they make their money. They don't make their money on ticket sales.
That's the thing, though. It's like, but are they going to cut costs? Probably not. Or they're just going to shut down fucking, movie theater chains.
Well, it's like how theaters, like theaters that have like dine-in options have gotten so popular that I think that's the type of thing that will be more like the theaters of the future are going to be bar in the lobby, food that gets brought into you, or however you have the recliner, you have the food brought to you. I don't know what else you could add to it. I've seen theaters that have like bowling alleys attached. I'm not as much of a fan of that, but like I thought, like your point, like about, I think like what would make sense almost is like you charge for like admission, and then in there you have like what an arcade and I don't know. I will eat during a movie, but like I'm not someone that's gonna like see a movie and then be like, let's roll some bowling balls for an hour afterward. Like, that's not me. So
for a minute there, I was like, what?
I've got poke at some theaters here, but I don't think it's so expensive.
Exactly.
But,
yeah. Well, and like the theaters that are like the dine-in theaters are usually overall it's going to be cheaper than dinner and a movie, especially if you're paying for babysitters, because you don't have to do dinner. You know, you save an hour of babysitter pay, and the I don't know if I'm going to say the food is cheaper, but like you don't have to. There is a I don't know. The expense overall is just is less.
Labor.
I guess maybe the food is cheaper or whatever. You don't have to tip as much. I don't know, something like that. I didn't say that part about tipping. You probably have to tip the same amount.
Yeah, tipping too. I know, but I mean, it's
right. I don't know how much more you can add to that theatrical experience. Like how Steven, you were saying that they have to adapt and they have to do something.
Well,
how much more can you do?
I think like there's gonna be like elements of like maybe movie theaters that have like, oh, do you want the drive-in experience where you literally go into a car, like your booth is a car, like in fucking Pulp Fiction where they had a booth that was a car, but you're like an old style car and you have like, oh, there's a screen and you're in like a fucking 55 Chevy or something like that are makeshift thing.
Oh.
It's gonna be
look at like
themes.
I'm not a fan of Alamo Drafthouse because they've had insane issues with like personnel and that's a long story about like all that stuff.
4D.
But what they've the kind of culture they've created around those theaters, I think, is really impressive. Of people know that if you go there, you're like no one's gonna be talking on their phone. You're not gonna have kids, and like you don't have to. I will for certain movies have to choose different theaters. So I know like, oh, okay, if I'm at that theater at 7:00, there's gonna be a baby in that theater, or like I've had to deal with that in the past. Like why are babies in theaters? Like why?
God damn it, man! I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I mean. I still remember like one of the worst ones. One of the worst experiences was I saw Ford v Ferrari. Okay, it's not a kids movie, so oh shit, something fell down.
Oh wow!
But Tyler,
Just move by itself.
Your Funko Pop just fell over.
Yeah, no, well this.
Oh, you're shaking.
Really,
Okay.
really shake the table. Like it turns pretty good. So, but no, I remember one of the worst things that, when I saw Ford v Ferrari, it was literally on a Thursday night. It was at like 9:00 at night. And like, I don't know, this couple's kid decided, who was like 4 years old, was asleep for like the first hour and a half. And then the last like remaining time, he was just like awake and full of energy and was running up and down and pounding on all the fucking backs of the chairs. I couldn't believe it. We just lost Steven. I don't know what happened. But yeah, I mean, just bringing up like that whole thing, and I'm just kind of, I just remember just like always peeking up and looking at the parents, giving them like a dirty look, like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean,
you're gonna do something about your fucking game.
I can't. I'm like, seriously, this is a biopic about cars. And you brought your kid here. He was asleep for the first like hour and something minutes. Now he's up and he's fully charged. He's recharged and he's running up and down the fucking aisle, pounding on the back of the chairs.
Wow!
Like, and you're not going to do anything about it. Like, what is wrong? I can't fathom like if whenever the time where I actually have a kid and I like go to the movie theater, it's gonna probably take a while where I'm gonna make sure like that kid is like gonna sit there the whole time and not be a pain in the ass. I can't tell you how many times I just like when I'm watching a movie and all of a sudden like 47 minutes in, all of a sudden you hear I'm like, what the fuck?
That's why I like these my local theater on Wednesdays when it's closed now, but on Wednesdays 1:30 it's like family theater day. They throw on a cartoon or something, one of those and you can have family in it. The lights are not totally dark, and it's crazy though. There's kids running or kids screaming or shouting and stuff like that, but the tickets are much cheaper. But and I think the kids are free. So
oh my god! I mean, I don't understand. I remember one time. The second time I saw the first Deadpool movie. I mean, literally a couple came in with a stroller, fucking infant.
To Deadpool?
Me and my buddy were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then sure enough, like 20 minutes in, they were gone. It's like, thank you. Like, what are you bringing? What are you thinking? What exactly are you thinking? When I and that's just. There's an unwritten law of like, hey, come on. Like anytime that I see like these couples bringing in a fucking infant into a movie theater, I'm like, you are selfish. Come on. You are absolutely.
I did it one time, and it was actually 300. I went to see 300.
Wow. Damn.
Which came out like roughly 13 years ago, and
like
my son was about a year ago.
Like that.
Old. Yeah, so I took him in, and I'm like, I tell my wife at the time, like, put him on your lap, he won't cry. And the first scene that he saw when he woke up, it was the those elder men that were with the oracle. They had this.
Oh, jeez,
dude, he just looked up and just like, bitch, like, okay,
man, I know.
Oh man. What do you guys think?
To make a long story short, my wife had to watch it on DVD when it came out.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question.
Like, kids.
In terms of I've had this question asked. Like, I know they said 1 year only, but who here thinks that they won't, if it turns out well, they won't extend this into 2022?
No,
they'll keep it going.
They'll keep it going, right? I mean, if it works well and there are a lot of subscribers, the Batman you could literally have on HBO Max too.
Yeah,
if they had said this was their strategy going forward, theaters would have closed. Like their stock already plummeted, but like they just would have been done. It just would have been like, boom, you're like the theatrical industry is over. And so this kind of gives them a year to be like, hey, you have a year to fix your stuff. But also like, they're still making a little bit. So it's like, okay, so now you are no longer just a distributor. You are now a competitor. Give people a reason to see this for you instead of on HBO Max. What is better about seeing it there? Like, give them a reason other than a big screen.
Got to give them an experience. But I think you know what, because I like the idea of upgrading my system here, which is pretty good. But
I'm probably
the thing is that the whole experience about going to the movie theaters, smelling the popcorn, getting your juju beats, whatever it is that you're into, and just go and sit in front of this big ass movie screen and getting this whole vibe, like turning your phone off for an hour and a half or 2 hours and forgetting about everything else, and submerging yourself into the experience. That thing, you can only have that when you go to the movie theaters. Here you have your phone, and you, like, even when I love the movie that I'm watching, I'm looking at my phone, checking on Twitter, texting my kids and so it's
adorable, Chris.
Sorry,
yeah, no, that was too cute.
My niece is
that was adorable. Yeah. I get it. I know. Yeah, company. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
No, keep going, Ben. Keep going, Ben.
No, sorry. I was just saying that it doesn't matter how great of a system you have in your house. It's just not going to replace.
It's never going to reach that.
Although the movie theaters do have to improve whatever they have right now to make it appealing for people who are actually in a bind, whether I watch it at home or go to the movie theaters. Now you have to make it interesting for them to leave their homes and go watch it at the movie theaters.
Yeah, I mean, like when you guys were talking about when I was refilling my drink, what Chris said is like, oh, is this going to be, just a year thing, or is it going to is this the plan for? It's like, obviously it was probably always the plan for. I mean, I saw so many people that, the big time, the Batman stands, I guess you could say, they're like, oh no, luckily that's coming out in 2022. So it's really out in cinema. I'm like, come on, really? You think that's going to be the case? I mean, I mean, and then even, talking with the, the Nelms brothers and stuff like that, I mean, of course, they being filmmakers themselves, they want a little bit of leeway, but, they understand. I mean, their movie right now, that is, their big movie right now is full on VOD. It's streaming. So they're already, when they're coming up in the business, they're already like used to it. And then you got your Martin Scorsese's, who's like, last year, look at what he did with The Irishman. He put it on Netflix, but it was out, for a week.
Yep.
Movie theaters, it's like there's going to be an interesting balance, that when it comes to the theatrical and then it comes to the same day. I mean, someone like all of us, we will gladly go to the movie theater to watch one of these big movies that we want to watch. But then I like the fact that I could just come home and watch it again in the comfort of my own home right away. I really love that. But, not everybody's going to be like that,
Well, also, I think that when we're talking about theaters competing, it might not necessarily be a matter of like being bigger and better, but just being, do 30 screen multiplexes need to exist? It might just be a matter of saying like, okay, what happens if you had, one screen and you showed the biggest movie there, every day, and then you have
studios buying theaters themselves. That's going to be an interesting,
yeah, exactly.
That could happen too.
And so then you've got, like, let's say you have just 1 or 2 screens instead of 30. Your property costs are way lower. Your electric costs are way lower. Your staffing costs are insanely lower.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about a smaller theatrical market, but it's propped up by the big stuff instead of trying to show everything, taking a loss on half of it and hitting a home run now and then. They're just saying, like, you know what, we just need to be leaner and just accept the fact that we are not the $100 billion industry we were once. And also like take into account, like, I can't find it because I originally read it in print, like at the turn of the century. I feel so old saying that. But back in like the early 2000s, I think it was back then, it might've been, sometime in the first decade, Spielberg and Lucas were saying that that's what would happen to theaters. They would be more like sporting events or whatever, where you'd go for the event films.
Posted that today, yeah.
And they even said, well, there was in 2013, they were saying that you're gonna, there's gonna be like a tiered system and stuff is gonna be way more like on demand. But what they were saying back in like the early 2000s was that you would go and you would see the big tentpole blockbusters, and then like in the lobby you'd be able to like buy a home media copy to take home on the like, this is before streaming was a thing, obviously.
Well, I mean, even Ben Affleck said like, oh yeah, these small movies, like the movies that he made, like The Town, they're not going to be released on in theaters anymore. It's all going to go streaming, and he was right about streaming in general. Like, I mean,
Scorsese couldn't get The Irishman in theaters in 2019, right?
Yeah.
So so when we're talking about that all has, like, COVID is such a huge part of this conversation, but also take COVID out of this, and like The Irishman couldn't be made in theaters. A lot of small, even like stuff Affleck is talking about making, he was having trouble getting it in the theaters before COVID. So this is not a like, oh, if COVID just hadn't happened, this wouldn't be the case. Or like, oh, if they just stick with it, there'd be a theatrical market there. Like, the theatrical market is shrinking anyway. This was always the plan. This was always a necessity. And I think it's great for the consumer. And it's just, it poses going to be a difficult time of transition for the industry. But to be fair, and I think Dice mentioned this in the comments earlier, they deserve it. They spent 20 years not adapting to customer needs, and people quit going to theaters because of it. And like, I feel bad for them, but like, maybe they should have adapted to changing landscape earlier instead of like upping popcorn prices.
One thing you mentioned about creating these theaters, movie theaters, they're gonna become like these big events, and so they're gonna. I feel that's why the Batman was not included in this on this slate, because they could easily very much put it on this slate because the movie is gonna be finished before the next year. So I'm thinking about these movie theaters creating this movie going experience where it's more like a theme park. And the movie theaters and the studios, they're gonna have this deal where, listen, the short shot movies that are $1 billion making movies, we're gonna give you preferential treatment where you can release it there, make it an event, make it an exclusive thing, but everything else will have to adhere to this model that we adopted moving forward. Because now movie theaters, you're not gonna have a movie theater in every other corner like we do now. Now you're gonna have to drive 45 minutes to go to the movie theaters. And
yeah, and then what I'm also wondering too is like, what does James Cameron have up his sleeve? Because I mean, we got his Avatar sequels that are coming out, and it's like, if anybody's going to change the industry, it's going to be James Cameron, because he's done it so many times. He's just look at the movies that he's done. I mean, with the last Avatar, I was not a fan of 3D. When I saw Avatar in 3D,
you had to watch it.
Right. It was a fucking experience. Now I'm wondering, I'm like, is he going to bring that to life without glasses? Am I going to watch it in a theater that's like curved around the walls and shit's just going to be jumping at me? Like, I'm wondering how crazy it's going to get. And if anybody can do it, it's going to be Jimmy Cams, guys.
I forgot which director. Was it James Cameron that wanted to do that straight to home? It was Steven Spielberg or James Cameron, one of those that were like
it's probably
almost pro.
Maybe it was, I don't know. It seems to me like it would probably be Steven Spielberg, because
well,
but then again,
wasn't there a bunch of people who like got together and they wanted to make they were like rallying behind the idea of a box.
Yeah.
It would be like it would be on like a secured network.
Yeah.
So that you could have like a VPN to access theatrical content for like people with home theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot who that was.
I don't know who all was in on it, but it was. I think it was one of those things that like people were signing on to, and directors were like throwing their support behind it.
Sounds like it would have been Spielberg more than Cameron, because Cameron, just like I said, I've been hearing that he's been wanting to do glasses-free 3D
for a while. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that's the gimmick that's going to be part of these Avatar sequels. Is we're going to be like walking into these theaters, they're going to have these weird, elaborate. I mean, they're already around. What do they call that? That 4D, and they've had it at Hall H, where it's like you got like this fucking shit that's all around you, and he's probably going to up it a notch where shit is just jumping at you and you don't even have any glasses on, which is good for.
You have to have like a special type of camera to shoot.
Right, guys? We all have glasses. We hate fucking wearing those 3D
I hate 3D glasses.
Oh my God. It's a pain in the ass. You have to put it on top of your glasses. Just to fucking, yeah. So he's looking out for us, guys. James Cameron. Looking out for the forehead.
Avatar, maybe.
I mean, that's.
But wouldn't you have to have like special kind of camera to shoot something like that? And I haven't heard of anything new.
Yeah, I'm just, I've said it before. I'm like, I'm surprised that VR hasn't like shot up like big time. I know that it's out there. Like when they talk about that, I mean, I remember getting like a piece of shit VR thing where it's just like, oh, you download an app, you stick your phone into the fucking glasses.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and you can like you could download the app where it looks like you're in a movie theater. And I thought that was pretty badass. I'm just surprised that there hasn't been like a huge uptick of like the VR experience where it's like you're in this, IMAX experience. I know it's out there, but it's just during this pandemic, I'm surprised it just didn't fucking take off like crazy.
Well, that would have to be like you bring your own VR, because now with the health concerns, you're not gonna strap somebody else's on.
You go to Best Buy, they no longer have those 3 glasses TVs anymore. Like,
it's weird.
I went out there, like, we're just looking at TVs, and I'm like,
nobody wants to wear something on their head.
Now there's like $500 70-inch TVs.
Nobody wants to wear anything on their head. That's the thing. And that's why I'm like, okay, James Cameron, if you're going to do some glasses-free shit, let's fucking do it. Let's see what happens. What were you going to say, Steven?
DSI Luxury Technologies. I found this thing. It's this company. They have a product called Red Carpet Cinema. It says, so what if you aren't a Hollywood elite hotshot? Well, the next best thing is the Bel Air Circuit is red carpet home cinema. This is a device that gives you access to new theater releases, but in a very consumer-friendly way. Think Apple TV on steroids. The uncompressed picture and sound blow away any content on any streaming service, bar none. New releases and phenomenal quality come at a price, though. The hardware sells for $15,000, and the movies run for $1,500 plus per title.
Jesus
this may
Christ.
seem like a big price tag, but our clients consider it the equivalent to a nice dinner and a bottle of wine.
Wow. Jeez.
Wow.
That's for the
So
rich.
that's how, yeah.
Crazy.
That sounds like a porn service. What is it? Red carpet? What?
I know.
Red carpet cinema.
Red carpet cinema.
I mean, basically, I think it's just the same theatrical licensing. It's the same thing that theaters are doing. It's just it's people that can afford to pay theater licensing costs for their home theater.
Fucking hey, dude. Well, you know, I like I said,
1984 on there.
yeah, like I said in my my video, like my first video about the HBO Max thing, I'm like, my whole goal in life is to have a home theater now, because it seems like they're going to be few and far between. You know, it's and you guys are all invited, by the way, if you want to visit my home theater. You know,
Nice.
saying I'm going to make it nice and huge, or I'm just going to raid Zack Snyder's home
Yeah,
theater.
like Zack Snyder.
Jesus Christ, I know. But
I think
yeah.
I counted.
we have a Patreon video submittal from our good friend Neil, who has, like, I'm telling you, this guy has a man cave like that I also subscribe to have. Yeah, no, Neil's cool, and he's also wearing a good shirt. So here we go.
What up, Dave? What up, Vodka Stream panel? How you guys doing tonight? So for tonight's video question, I want to take us into the realm of Man of Steel. I want to know what's a scene or a moment in that movie that still, when you watch it, gives you those feels, that the chills. You get excited when you see it still. So for me, my favorite scene is the World Engine scene when he has the moment of the recognition of his own power, and the cuts, the score, everything that's going on is fantastic. So, but the one stipulation for the question is nobody is allowed to use First Flight, because we all love First Flight. Cheers.
God, I seriously want to like.
First of all,
I love how
fucking
every
A.
week. I love how every week he like we get a little peek at more
Yeah.
of it
Yeah.
than the week before.
He's literally
And-
got
All four
exercise
corners
bike.
covered.
And,
Jesus.
and he's literally got a camera person helping him now. Like, I hope
Yeah.
I hope this trend continues. Like, I can't wait to see what his production value is in like
I know,
6 weeks.
geez, man. No, I'm telling you.
Like,
Almost
he's
at the
gonna
home
submit a
theater
short film.
level. Jesus.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like he's
man
got,
cave
he's
is-
got the neon strips like everywhere too. It's like,
Yeah, I've got big expectations for next
Yeah.
week now.
I know, man. You got to up your production value. Neil. No, I mean, I think I've mentioned it. I think I even mentioned it with maybe even Snyder. It's just no, maybe not. But I mean, the one that always gets me in the feels is just when Jonathan is showing Clark the ship, and then when Clark goes, "Can I just be your son?" And he goes, "You are my son," and he hugs him. That will always fucking punch me right in the fucking emotion balls.
I was getting ready to say the same one because I'm glad that you said the line, because what I was gonna say is that I like can't get through that line like without choking up just as much as he does. So it's like every time.
It's so good. I mean, he's just the way that Kevin Costner, he just goes, "You are my son," and he just like grabs him and hugs him. It's just like, it's just, it just.
Well, and I feel like I mentioned this every single time also, but it's always so impactful to me because I remember an interview with Goyer where he said that while he was writing Man of Steel, he became a father and his dad died.
Oh, fuck. That's right.
And so like look at what that movie does with he's got two fathers in the movie, and he deals with becoming a father and being an adoptive father and losing a father and sacrificing yourself for your child, and like it's like so much like parental child stuff, and like to imagine like no wonder it comes from such an emotional place. Like he was like that was a like in his head at the time. Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
Same thing. Like any father, or even the part where like he sees, he comes off the I think the Lex Luthor, whatever that gas tank or whatever, and he sees Martha. He sees his mom, and he talks just that casual conversation between his mom and him thinking that she's sad or angry, or that he found his parents or his real parents or something.
Oh yeah,
that little moments is like
yeah,
that little moments is like awesome. Yeah. So
I get emotional when like he's walking up and she sees him, and and one of my favorite, like just like a random scene in Man of Steel, is when when the house is, after the whole battle with Zod and stuff like that, and then the house is kind of fucked up, and she just walks out and just goes, nice suit, son, nice suit, son, nice suit, son. So I kind of and just gives him a hug. It's so random, but it's so great.
Yeah.
My favorite is the one when he's with Jor-El, and he just strikes the panel. He says, "Strike the panel," and he said, "You could save them, Kyle. You can save them all." And you see the big blue planet right beneath them. I was like, ah. And then he just flies out with a Jesus moment, arms open. Like, dude, I still get chills with that moment, because two things happen. Like, he's talking about the all human beings, and he's just laser focused on Lois, because that's the first thing that utters out of his mouth, Lois.
Yeah.
And then he just flies out. That was, to me, that was my favorite scene.
God. And it's just like, even that whole scene is great, because he goes and gets her, and then I just love the fact that, like, she's freaking out, and he finally gets to her, and then just boom, and then like the way that the door opens, and then he just pushes himself off, and he just pushes the pod to make her like come out, and then he grabs her, turns her around, and I'm like, God damn it. I mean, they really just thought of so many things when it came to like the way he saves her, or the certain things. Even like when and I remember like Kevin Smith he said that his favorite moment in Man of Steel, this was a while ago when he interviewed Snyder, where where he grabs her, where she was falling down, and like the world engine was all doing its thing, and he fucking grabbed her, and the way he grabbed her, and the way that she just like looked over his shoulder and looked at the fucking craziness over his shoulder, and then he's just like pushing the fucking kid away from it. It's just like, God damn it, man. I mean, how do you not? If you're a Superman fan, you have to. How do you not?
You gotta love that
this movie with all the little details like that,
I love the ending where you get a shot at the Man of Steel theme, and you see Jonathan Kent looking at his son with the red cape. And I was like, yes. Oh man, it's like, wow. Like, I'm really proud of him. Yeah.
It's just, God damn it. I mean, that's one of the things I asked Snyder when it came to, they wanted Christopher Nolan to do that for Superman, and Christopher Nolan was like, no, I'm not going to do it, but I know somebody who can. And he pointed to Zack Snyder and just, gave him a call. And I mean, people need to realize that. I mean, the Snyder haters out there that love Nolan, it's like, do you realize that, that he recommended Snyder to do like Superman because he was like a huge fan of Watchmen, which was way ahead of its time, which if Watchmen was like released, now, I think it would be way more respected than it was back in 2008, whatever.
The other thing I really appreciated that he pointed out in that interview, I guess like you said, he mentioned Watchmen, and we always know that like, oh yeah, Nolan picked him, but not just that he liked Watchmen, but that he picked that because he wanted him to do Watchmen with Superman. Is what Zach said Nolan wanted from him. So like the idea of doing the deconstructionist kind of darker Superman approach it's not like Snyder like failed to execute on what Nolan's idea was. Like that is what Nolan brought him in to do. Which like I'm not saying that means people are required to like it, but like as an artistic decision, I think that kind of voices like that was the job, that was what they wanted from the movie.
The plan.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And obviously I showed the image earlier of Snyder, of course, showing that he was doing stuff today. Obviously, right there, boop, picture start. Ooh, and of course, you have to make the joke. I'm like, hey, we have the official title. It's Zaka Snyder. So, but it's whatever. I love the fact that you almost wonder, like, did he do that on purpose, just to like throw people off? Because I think
he's making fun of the people that insist on that being the name, right? Clearly, it's the director's cut of Justice League, and he's just mocking the hashtag.
Director's cut of Justice League 2017. Supposed to be. But I mean, it's pretty exciting, and he did confirm that, of course, he was working on the sound, and a lot of people were like, "Wow, it seems like he's pretty ahead of the curve," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, he is." I mean, when you have, I mean, I thought about this, and and of course, I got it confirmed by that particular source that he was ahead of the game. Like, but I think at the same time, and like when you have like a pandemic happening and maybe not a lot of people are doing things, and you can have easy access to everybody coming in and do some additional photography and just kind of like get it done, and nobody's working on anything else. Everything else is done because it's probably been postponed, because I have a feeling that a lot of his like VFX artists were probably working on stuff like Godzilla vs. Kong, which was done, supposed to be out this year, probably done. Everything that VFX artists were working on, they were done with,
Right, and a lot of other work dried up, so it's not like they were split on 100 different projects.
So they were 100% focused on Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I mean, this thing could probably get released, sooner than March, is what we've been talking about for a lot of times. I know a lot of people were like, with the news of HBO Max, and Jason Kilar like kind of was being coy and say like, oh yeah, it's going to be out in a few months. And I'm like, hey, we've been talking about March for like a long time. It's pretty much the set month. We don't know exactly when in March, but
But they're going to have to space out all those movies throughout the year. So I'm sure they're going to find them.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other interesting thing about it is originally, like, as Dave and I have been pointing out since last November, the idea of it being a series is a lot of like I've talked a lot about monetization on streaming platforms, and so we don't need to do that all over again. But the thing that makes this an attractive deal for HBO Max to even spend money on, $70 million on, instead of whereas like WB was never going to do it to do in theaters, was the idea that it could be spaced because they were lacking in original content. It could be done quickly. It was long enough to be split up into into multiple episodes, etc. But now that was before the pandemic hit and before they had this idea to just drop everything. And so I'd be curious to know how that's going to impact the release schedule. And if you look at like now that you don't need to spread that release out quite as significantly in order to like cover that spread to keep subscribers engaged, because you've legitimately got tentpole movies coming out every month of the year basically because of this. And so it's entirely possible that could change that plan. And so maybe it'll either, I don't know if they would nix the series idea, but maybe release a movie version first, instead of a series first. Or there's a few different directions they could go with that. But
why not all the way around though? Because like for instance, Dune, I think that movie is gonna be long. What if they went back to those directors and said, listen, you want to flesh out your story a little bit more, you want to work on your director's cut and put it out as a series and put out three chapters on the service?
That would be interesting, but we're talking about simultaneous theatrical releases for all of those.
That's the thing.
But that also gives you another little bit extra to go watch in the movie theaters and then come back and watch it on the streaming.
Maybe.
Sure, I mean, when it comes to Zack Snyder's Justice League, I mean, we're talking about 4 hours plus. That's going to be interesting to see. I mean, remember, like, even like, going back. I mean, of course, when I interviewed him on the Vodka stream, he talked about he wanted us to see an IMAX version in black and white, like Does that mean he's going to get that? Like when it comes to this now, I mean, he's going to get that theatrical release where he can like show it in IMAX, or is that going to be a special event? I don't know. I mean, like that's what I'm wondering.
Well, and that's the other question, because like I was saying with the whether or not it's a series, is if they want to, whereas like everything else was a theatrical project that's now getting simul released on HBO Max.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a series kind of makes that a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But if they were to decide to go with a let's say they decided to go with a movie cut first, Zack Snyder's Justice League could jump onto that exact same strategy and see a theatrical. That could almost be throw a little bit of a bone to theaters and be like, look, here's one more thing for you to try to sell people.
You're right.
Whereas like I don't think it's as likely for them to have episodes shown in theaters, which means that like what are you going to do? You're going to have the 4 episodes are going to come out, and then by the time a theatrical version comes out, it's a edited together version of the version that was split out. No, just release the movie first. And also give it a limited theatrical run. And then if they want to do the episodes later as like an expanded experience, that you can do that, after the fact. From a monetary perspective, now that all this other stuff is happening, that makes a lot of sense to me.
So like a 4+ hour movie.
Yeah.
Theater. Wow.
That's going to be insane. Is there going to be an intermission? Probably. There's got to be.
There's got to be. There's got to be.
There's no way.
Even Zach can't sit all the way through BVS Ultimate Edition.
He took a piss. He took a piss here and there. Apparently, yeah, he did take a piss, right? Right, Chris? Didn't he?
Yeah, right before the Capitol bombing.
Yeah. Dude, I'm surprised I lasted. Oh my god. I remember sitting in there, and I was sitting next to Matt and Shane, Comic Movie Marks, and I remember just joking with Matt, going, "Fucking A, dude, if we have to," because we were like right in the center, and this is like an old, movie theater. It's not like spaced out like movie theaters are now, where you could just get easily in and out. It's like you're literally like putting your ass or your fucking crotch in someone's face, like right there. You're rubbing knees. You're rubbing knees as you're going by. So I was like,
it was a hard seat too.
Yeah. It's not even a comfortable seat. But for some reason, it was okay. It was weird. Like, I think somebody asked me on Film Junkee Live, where they were like, "What's your best, movie experience?" And like, I always go back to that, because it was a great experience to watch BVS Ultimate Cut with nothing but BVS fucking super fans in a shitty little, theater with no AC, and shoulder to shoulder with people. But for some reason, like, I didn't have to get up and go take a piss. It flowed. It felt like it was like an hour. It didn't feel like the 3 hours. It was insane how great it was.
I love how you're like, I had to get up and take a piss. It flowed. It was like an hour.
Yeah, it was the longest piss of my life. No, but yeah, after the screening, like, everybody like went to the bathroom. And I took the piss of my life, and that's when I think that's when I first met Russ. That's when I realized who Russ was. I was like, "Oh, you're Russ." Or, you guys know Russ, who shows up in the live chat every now and again. Like, it was just like, "Oh, hey, because he was like right there, like when I walked out of the bathroom, and then we talked. But it was crazy. What do you think about the Justice League Apocalypse War story basically stealing nearly Zach's whole story? Did it really?
No, it wouldn't have stolen it.
No.
It's common that the animated movies kind of are similar to like the other stuff that's going on, but because of the production timeline on those and how long the animated movies take to happen, that would have been in the works before everything happened to Zach. So it may have gotten like some tweaks or something. I heard something. I think one of the directors said something about they changed the ending in order to that's what Dice is saying. That was an interview with Dice. I'll make sure I credit it properly. Dice was told by the director that they had to change the ending because of
Hey,
Yeah,
Dice,
I'm
you realized
crediting.
I sent you the
So-
link. You could have just showed up and just talked about it. But it's okay. It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna butcher it. If you want to jump in, you can explain it. But basically, yeah, there was an insinuation that maybe it was originally more like the Snyder cut, and possibly because of the reshoots, they had them change the ending. As kind of me reading into that. Obviously, that's not what the director said or the writer said. I'm just gonna really badly explain it and see how long it'll take to get Dice on here.
Well, I when I was sending everybody the links, I sent Dice a link. I'm like, hey man, if you want to join, but no, it's all good. It's okay.
He was mad that we didn't tell him about the after party. I thought he just had to leave last time. I thought he just had to leave
That's
because
right.
of
Yeah, because when we exit out of here, sometimes we'll talk after the broadcast, and he didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's totally fine. But no, yeah. I mean, when it comes to the Apocalypse War, I mean, yeah, a lot of people are making the parallels, but I mean, it's like, that's gonna happen. It's just really gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna happen no matter what. It's gonna happen even when Marvel does something. I mean, I've seen that shit too, where there's parallels like, oh, did you see this? They totally ripped it off. Endgame ripped off this fucking DCU.
Yeah.
It's like shot for shot. I'm like, it's actually not shot for shot. The person who made the video edited it to make it look like it was shot for shot.
And not only that, but
it's the same.
It's so frustrating when that stuff comes up, because when you talk about stuff like that, there's only so many ways to shoot something.
Yeah.
And
like, there was in that animated feature, Batman was out in space and Superman saved him.
And it was the same
Captain
as like
Marvel
Endgame.
saved fucking Tony Stark. It's like,
what are they supposed to do? Like, give it like some back ass words? Like, it's the same. How you're being rescued and your ship is being brought in.
Yeah.
How many ways
Superman
should
pull it. He should pull it. Not hold it like this. He should hold it like this.
Exactly. Well, and it's funny how well, in addition to that, stuff like that is like,
we lost Steven. Dang, right. Somebody screenshot that. Somebody screenshot that. Look at that. He is like so deep in thought.
He's deep in thought. He's taking a pause.
Yeah. Yeah. He's philosophical right now. No, but no. But there was a video floating around that I forgot which animated feature, but it has Batman that was out in space, and then Superman saves him, and it was like they compared it to Endgame when Tony Stark out in space and Captain Marvel saves him, and it was like shot for shot. But I'm like, well, is it really shot for shot, or did they edit it like that? Because I don't know. But yeah, like how else is that's supposed to happen? I mean, they're both carrying, a ship back to Earth. I don't know, like how else are you supposed to do that? I mean, there's always going to be that those parallels,
Yeah. He should have brought a rope with him.
Yeah. Yeah, just like when he pulled that ship in BVS. I mean, come on, that was bad. I mean, that's where you have to get creative as the creator, and that's where Snyder was like, hey, I'm going to show Superman saving people on a boat. This is how I'm going to do it. And, that shot is a beautiful fucking shot. And there are still people to this day that I got in my mentions not too long ago that were like, did you know that there were people on that ship? I'm like, yeah, where you been, dude? I'm like, yeah, you zoom in, there's people all over that ship. He's pulling them in, Yep. It's a beautiful shot because it just, from far away, when you're just watching it, it just looks like Superman pulling in a ship. But yeah, you look closely, there is a bunch of people on that ship that are like, yeah, Superman is saving us. It's like, yeah, hello. But,
What do you guys think is going to be the reaction from Disney after this announcement?
They're gonna have to.
They're gonna do the same. I think I think Black Widow.
Yeah, that's gonna be the first,
right?
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done it already because it's like, come on. I mean,
is that what they're doing with
anybody super excited? I'm no longer excited about. I'll watch Black Widow when it comes out, but I'm not like super jazzed about it because it's like we already know what happens to her, but it's like, okay, but luckily they introduced like Florence pew 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 because I'm all about her now. I'm like, okay, she's gonna be like the new Black Widow. So now you've intrigued me by, okay, at least enticing me by this whole other Black Widow that's going to be taking over, because we already know that Scarlett Johansson is not going to be returning. Now we got Florence Pugh, and then it's already revealed that she's going to be in the Hawkeye series. It's like, okay, cool. I like Florence Pugh, sure. So, but yeah, when it comes to the whole like premium thing that they were charging for new movies, it's like you can't do that now.
Nope.
But Disney Plus is cheaper monthly than HBO Max.
That's true. It's like $8, $7.99.
Yeah, it's like it's. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, that's why I was making the jokes yesterday when all this shit was happening, and I was like, your move, Disney. What are you gonna do now? I mean, you fucking, Warner Media forced your hand. They really. Warner Media, I'm glad that Warner Brothers are like the first to do it and to be like, hey, we're gonna fucking set the new standard here. I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm glad that Disney wasn't the one that did that, because of course, with the jokes of Mulan when they charged the premium, but then they announced like a couple of months ago that, you can watch it for free in December. And then a lot of people are like, well, then I'll just wait because I don't really give a shit about Mulan, and it's just like, yeah. And then I still think that Warner Media and all those guys were like, let's announce this the day before Mulan goes free. It just sounds like tactic. It's too convenient. That's why I made the joke. That's why I made the jokes today on Twitter. I was like, it's too convenient. Like the fact that the day before that Mulan was going to be free on Disney Plus, they were just like, guess what, guys? This is what we're doing. And it just totally just stole the thunder of
it did.
I'm telling you, somebody was like, hey guys, come on. We're it just seemed too convenient to me. That's why I made the joke today. And a lot of people misunderstood it, which I understood, because it started, getting out there, and a lot of, that side of the Twitter sphere were like, oh, it was already planned. I'm like, yeah, I get that it was already planned. But the fact of the matter that they announced the day before, it was a little convenient, to me. What do you think, Steven? No, but like the convenience of the fact that HBO Max decided to unveil all this shit that really just changed the game a day before Mulan goes free on Disney Plus. There had to be somebody in there going like, hey, let's do this the day before. Like, Disney put their big movie that was supposed to come out this year, for free on their service. Like, it almost seems like it was like a little jab. Right? Maybe.
There's also that news today about Disney looking to combine Hulu and Disney Plus.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, but then like didn't what's her name? No? What's her name? Didn't she say like oh, it was something like a theory or something like that? I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know what she said. Okay. She said something, but that does make sense, because I've been saying this for the longest time. Is like, if you're gonna own this much of the movie industry, you have to have that adult content, and if it's going to be on Hulu, fine. We just heard that there's going to be a Deadpool 3. That thing needs to be rated R. It can't be a PG-13.
Yes.
It can't be.
But merging Hulu, how would that work? Because Hulu is like an aggregator. You can add HBO Max to Hulu. You can add Showtime and all other stuff. So
they would probably lose a lot of those deals. What happened is they would just gain Hulu's content. But I don't think a lot of those services would go. I don't think Disney would want a lot of the aggregated services, and it's possible. I don't know. The aggregated services would probably appreciate if Disney pumped them up. But I think the thing that makes more sense to me that I've seen kind of floating around for a while is like an 18 and up section.
Yes.
Disney has like historically been
kid friendly.
They've historically been like very well kid friendly with, obviously they own Miramax and stuff like that. So like, but and so I understand kind of how they were going for that with Disney Plus, but you look at like of all the people that have been hurt by COVID, like look at their two biggest places of revenue, right? They get money from box office and they get money from theme parks, and both of those were just basically like, nope, nothing else. And so that's why you're seeing like tens of thousands of people being laid off from Disney now, because like their theme parks are just like closed. I mean, I think Orlando is open, right? Is California back open, Dave?
Yeah,
but
California.
I mean, they were closed for a long time, and then even now that they're open, it's like, you know, way less attendance. And that's, you know, think about all the people that work to keep a theme park running,
and the price is still the same, which is
and then you've got and there's like a lot of debt involved in that too, from expansion and Galaxy's Edge and the same thing for movies. I mean, they've got Black Widow has been, you know, sitting on the shelf for months.
I didn't even
now.
think about it, but Disneyland, like, they fresh off the, you know, something new there. They had Star Wars Land that was supposed to expand. It was supposed to expand to like this great thing, but it's like, what's going to happen to that now? They spent all this money. I remember when that first launched, I think it was last year or something like that, the Star Wars Land got launched, and some people were like, yeah, it's barely anything. You walk around, you walk into the Millennium Falcon, you might see Kylo Ren and Chewie walking around, and then you go to a gift shop, and that's about it. But they're supposed to expand it, and then you can walk into the bar, you know, and hear you can hear that. But that was it. It wasn't much, but they were like, oh yeah, but we're gonna expand it. Now it's like they're probably not even gonna do that, because I mean, the last I heard, they're already like losing billions of dollars because it's California.
It's insane. I mean, literally, like you can't, like, all of that staff, like it's a rough situation. I mean,
that's the thing. It's like we see all the people operating, you know, the rides, and you know, they're in the costumes, but we don't see the people behind the scenes.
Well, you've got Imagineers, you've got accountants, you've got janitors, you've got
way
people
more people behind the scenes that we don't see. Yeah,
it's like its own operating city.
Fucking A.
Yeah, bus drivers and mechanics and like it's insane. And
literally it's a whole system that requires a bunch of people to operate.
It's like they have their own little city there.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's the same in Florida, but I know that Disney owns the land in Florida, and by owns it, I mean like it is not U.S. It's like not U.S. territory.
It's kind of like that here too. It's kind of like that here too, because Anaheim will like bow down to anything that Disney needs. Anaheim is always like, okay, what do you need? What do you need? You know, whatever you need. You know, but
so every property that you own in Florida is you're actually buying it from Disney?
No. I just mean like the land that they own in Florida, they actually own outright. Like it's not like it's I don't know if it would be considered like a micronation and they're technically, I think they are subservient to like U.S. laws.
You got caught, Steven. Hey, Krypton Cage got you. Like when you froze up. That's a good meme right there. That's clear. Much more clear than your Thanksgiving meme that cracked me up. You guys posted that when you guys posted that video, man, I like almost died laughing. It was just because you had the whole family, and then your son went off, and then you heard a crash, and you just looked over and then it cut. And I was like, oh my God, perfect way to cut. I commended Amanda for that cut, because it was just like, and then somebody freeze framed it, of course, and
directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh man, nothing broke during that video, did it? Or
no, nothing serious broke. He's just he's a little he's like a battering ram. Like he'll just run like full speed into things.
It's so perfect.
Like we have like our kitchen, dining room, living room is like connected. Like if you took down the wall, it'd be like an open floor plan. And he loves to do laps. But like if you're standing at the stove or like at the counter doing something, he'll like round you, like use you as like a pivot. It's like he'll grab your leg. It's like he swings around the corner. And he's getting too big. It's like, dude, you're like 4 now. Like you're gonna knock me over when
you're gonna pull me to the ground. No, it was just funny because it was like an adorable family video thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he just runs off, and then you hear this crash, and you like look over, and then it just cuts. It just cuts, and I was like, I literally cracked up when I saw that, just the way it cut.
No, that's basically us. They'll be like the cutest things ever, and then like the next second, it's like, what are you doing with that knife? Like, just like, where did you get that? Put that down. That's not yours.
Oh man,
like that's typical. And it's like, I'm so sorry, Daddy. It's like, no, don't you? No,
no, don't be adorable.
I love you, Daddy. I love you, Mom.
Yeah,
you can't be adorable right now. But anyways, guys, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And if people wondering where Garz is, who knows? I don't know.
Knows.
Where's your boy? Where's your boy, Ben? Some people are wondering where Garz was.
Video games.
My brother's keepers.
I know some people are like, "Where's Garz?" It's like, I'm sure. Yeah.
Did anybody ask for me if I was here last week?
He knew you wouldn't let him talk about the new Mando episode.
Last week. That happened last week. People were wondering where you were last week.
Passed
So
out,
dude. Don't worry. Yeah, I know. Apparently, you got a little.
Yeah.
Let's see.
He was actually at home watching. Like, I hope people ask where I am in the chat.
Yeah. He was just testing the waters. Like, somebody said that. People did. Anytime when somebody's missing. That's why I had to put a disclaimer first. Like, hey, Scott's not gonna be here, guys.
Yeah.
He's got, family stuff. You guys and your fucking family stuff. Jeez.
Yeah.
What are you doing to me? I'm just kidding. No, but thanks to the Nelms brothers for coming in. Like I said, hopefully they come back and they could talk about FATMAN 2. You guys need to watch it. I'm curious to see what your guys' opinions about it.
I love the idea of calling it FATMAN Returns just because it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It's like Batman Returns, FATMAN Returns.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much there. I mean, like when I was watching it, I mean, I'm like going, okay, there's so much here that they could play with that I always thought about too, because when I watch, like, one of my favorites is the Santa Claus, and the Santa Claus really broke it down to like, how would this be in reality? But it still had that stupid fucking subplot of, oh, there's parents that don't believe. But I'm like, but literally he like went all around and put gifts everywhere. And like, how do parents not believe when they wake up and they're like, there's a canoe leaned up against a tree that is not, nobody bought that. So it's like, hey, you got to believe.
Yeah.
And in their world that they created, they're like, yeah, everybody just collectively knows there's a fucking Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And like half the kids are assholes, so they don't get gifts. It's like, it's great. And it's a Santa Claus that literally, when they show him for the first time, he's shooting tin cans. Like he's literally practicing his shooting, and it's like, yes. And there's scenes where, Mel Gibson's beating the fucking punching bag. And I'm like, yes, awesome. Santa Claus, even though he's got a gut, he's still fucking built. He's got guns, he's got shoulders, and stuff like that. And we talked about that too, how Mel Gibson just like, he literally got in that kind of shape where he was like, all right, I'm going to fucking get my gut out there, but I'm still going to be a little built, because he is a little built. And I'm like, that's awesome. The fact that Mel Gibson, even for like a small movie like this, he was dedicated to like getting his body where they wanted it, and that's just awesome right there. So yeah, guys, you guys got to watch it. Watch it. I mean, it's not don't watch it with your kids. Not that there's any nudity, but I mean, it's not that bad. I mean,
I think they still believe in that.
Yeah. There's no nudity. There's F-bombs, yes, like crazy. And it can get a little, it's slightly gory. It's not like grotesque gory, but I'm just saying it's not exactly a family film, but no nudity at least, So I'll just warn you with that. Anyways, guys, all right, yeah, thank you to them for joining. Those guys are cool to talk to, and hopefully when there's a FATMAN 2 or FATMAN Returns, they can come back and we'll talk about that. And like I said, there's so much there that they can expand on. But let's go around the horn. Mr. Chris Wong Swenson, go ahead and promote yourself.
Chris Wong Swenson at the Ping Pong Flick Show. And I was just thinking, just real quick, FATMAN versus Fatman v Easter Bunny. Dawn of
Yes.
Holiday. No, okay.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, and we were joking, like, how do you ground the Easter Bunny? Because that would be
Fatman Rises.
they all have to have their own origin story first. You see,
exactly.
you can't
Oh.
do
Well,
it
see,
without. So
That's what I liked about when Ian said, like, when they were like came up with the idea. It's like one of them had the idea, and then one of them came up with a prequel, like, you know, so they kind of already had like this origin story that they were like leading into. So it's like it seems like they had their bases covered, you know. And yeah, like I said, it's just, you know, I mean, it's not like the greatest movie ever, but it's just it was pleasantly and refreshingly.
Ooh, you didn't say that when they were on the stream.
I know, of course I wouldn't. You know, it's good. No, but it's still very. I know. See, thank you, Steve.
No, I'm just.
Someone's gonna clip this out.
I hope he's still watching.
No. Like,
no, I'm just busting your balls. I don't.
I know. No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's got the cheesy moments, but it's very fucking enjoyable, and it was just refreshing that it's like, oh, this is like something new and fresh, and like, yes, thank you. And
more than anything, I just love movies that know what they are.
Yes,
I hate it when movies like don't know.
It's very aware of what it is.
Like the director's making one movie, the performers are making another, the producers are making something else, and clearly the editor was told to try to turn it into something other than what was planned. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
hate that,
but.
And you know, talking with them, I mean, they only had, I think they said like it was like a $5 million budget, or maybe it was even less than that. But I mean, it probably, I mean, like the final act, yeah, it's like, yeah, maybe you wanted it to be a little bit more grander, but you know, they worked with what they had to work with, and it wraps up in a nice little bow, you know, pardon the pun, of Christmas. But you know, the fact, you know, just the way that it ends, and it's perfectly, you could set it up for a sequel, and then even go with the prequel. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, I mean, the fact that they said, like, when they wrote it like 14 years ago that they had Jack Nicholson or somebody in mind or something like that, that's pretty crazy. I'm like, and then just the fact that they you know, they saw Mel Gibson and they saw his beard and they're like, wow, that would be amazing. And then they approached him with it, waited, and then he finally responded, and then it just all worked out. I'm like, God damn! Just imagine that you write this crazy movie that a lot of studios are like, I don't know what you know, I like it, but I don't know what the fuck to do with it. And then to pitch it to Mel Gibson, who's like fucking, I mean, he's a superstar. He is. Yeah. I mean, he's well known. He's never. I mean, obviously, he's had his, you know, his personal life, you know, has come to fruition sometimes, and it's kind of been a little bad, but. The fact that they pitched it, that they pitched it to him. Someone said, when they pitched it to him, and then he got back to him, and then it just all worked out. I'm like, that's amazing. Imagine just like writing this thing, like, and then all of a sudden you get Mel Gibson to fucking play it. I mean, that's got to be just like that had to be a moment when they secured that. They fucking probably just jumped up and down and just hugged each other like, holy shit.
Yep.
Like, we got Mel Gibson to play our Santa Claus. I mean, and when you watch it, it's like, yeah, it fucking fits. Like, who else could? I mean, yeah, maybe somebody else could have fucking pulled out, but it's like, you're like, wow, this is fucking Mel Gibson doing this.
It puts it into another stratosphere of like once you get him.
It makes it better.
Yeah.
It makes it better. I mean,
and they were saying he's not just on it as an actor, but he's there like talking to them about like what lens they're using and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. When he was talking about that, I mean, when they were talking about how, like, you know, like, hey, go warm up, Mel, you know, in the heating tent or whatever the hell, because it's like 36 below out here. And then he's just like, all of a sudden, like, they look behind and Mel's just right there because he wants to be like, he wants to know what's happening. And then he'll like put in suggestions. He's all, take it or leave it, but maybe we should do it like this. And, you know, I mean, how intimidating could that be? Because you're like, you literally have Mel Gibson, Academy Award winning. He's won an Oscar
director
for directing movies. And he's been in movies for like, you know, 40 years pretty much. And it's like, he like puts a suggestion. How do you not say no? You know, I mean, like, how do you say no? You know, I would just be like, whatever you say. Yeah, let's do that. You know,
I like those behind the scenes stories, like the one that he was talking about, that they were writing this movie for $2 million, and then when they spoke to the person, they said, "Oh, it's 200,000." It's like, what?
Yeah, crazy.
How do you?
I mean, it's crazy the way it all builds up, and I love the fact that it got that little backstory of them like pretty much building up their street cred to get this movie pretty much greenlit. You know, they had to like build their street cred with like little movies that got into festivals that won awards, and it's like, okay,
that's the stuff I'm so fascinated by, and I would love to learn more about, because we hear about like these established studios who are like, we're going to make a $200 million movie, and then they just decide to do it, and then just pluck someone up to be like, okay, and you're going to direct it. But like when you're doing this, and you know, I think most of the people working in the industry, this is how they have to do it. And these are the stories you don't hear as often as the like, oh, I was plucked out of obscurity by Marvel. And instead it's like, oh no, I had to go to film festivals and work my way up from $100,000 movie to a $500,000 movie to a, you know, whatever. Like that's cool. I love knowing that stuff, because that's how the industry actually works.
Yeah. And I even brought that up too. I was like, you know, like sometimes, you know, Marvel just pull like unknown directors to direct these movies. Like, and that's why I asked, I'm like, hey, what movie you guys do? Of course, they went with Batman, which I'm like, all right, these guys are now my favorite because they said Batman. You know, but I mean, naturally, but they also brought up Superman and how, you know, and I probably should have, I almost went, are you guys aware of all this Snyder Cut stuff? You know, like, because when they started talking about like, yeah, when they started talking about Superman and trying to bring him to the screen because he's, you know, he's Superman. How do you do that? And I'm like, well, you guys see Man of Steel? I almost fucking went, but I was like,
indoctrinated him.
I'm not going to go down that road. I probably should have. Maybe next time I will. But yeah. But anyways, continuing going around the horn, Mr. Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Colbert. You can follow me on Twitter at smcolbert. You can find the podcasts that I host with Andrew Dice at SnyderMinute.com. We have a Facebook now, facebook.com/SnyderMinute. So check that out. And we got a new episode, a bonus episode for Snyder Minute, or for BVS by the Minute coming out later tonight, Dice says. So either stay up if you're a party animal, or catch it in the morning.
You do a line of coke, you know. Yeah. All right, Mr. Everett.
And you can find me on Twitter, Mr._Everts, and I'm on Real Anarchy every Wednesday because rebranded the YouTube channel. So you can find Real Anarchy, the Real Emotion podcast, every Wednesday at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and also on Sundays roughly around 7:30, 8 o'clock. So we'll have a special Sunday edition this Sunday as well with for the CCXP this weekend.
That's right.
So
forgot about
you guys join us.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going to happen there, but yeah.
Oh, they're going to drop a lot of stuff, I'm sure.
Well, it's so weird seeing people like, they're like, I don't even know how to register. Like nobody can figure out.
Yeah, that was odd.
There's no schedule. There's no.
Yeah, I figured out how to register, and then you actually have to put your passport because you're in America.
Yeah.
Well, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get your email back. You get
have a passport.
You have to log in again. It's like, holy crap.
Chris, I think you just get your identity stolen. That wasn't the CCXP website.
Put a social in there, everything, bank accounts.
Wow, that's crazy. And to come back to me, because everyone's not sick of me talking yet. I as you know, I also write for ScreenRant.com. If you're not sick of me talking about the HBO Max stuff, I do have a lot of what I'm talking about tonight, and more on like what this all means for the industry and specifically HBO Max. Probably going up sometime over the weekend, so keep an eye out for that at ScreenRant.
Shut up!
That's usually for Garza, though, you know. Yeah.
I'm going to download that one.
But anyways, all right. Appreciate you guys clicking in. Of course, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Follow me on all the sock meds that are down below. We got Patreon, too. You know, if you want to do all that, help out the pirate ship and submit your video questions. And, of course, we got merchandise, like if you want to get yourself some exclusivo, you want to get that guy on your chest or even your face. Yeah, that's right, there's a mask in there too. But anyways, guys, so as per usual,
And also, I'm excited to watch the Snyder Cut because Joss Whedon sucks.
Everybody got that?
The trifecta, guys. I mean,
There we go.
that's what's going on with that. Anyways, all right. We love you guys. Thank you for clicking in, and we'll talk to you later.